Good afternoon, council members.
Okay, you're all
Thanks
set.
for being here. So as I mentioned, we're starting the General Services Committee meeting at 6:03 p.m. on Tuesday, October 26th. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Eileen McDermott, can you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's see. We'll do the roll call. Councilmember Gully.
Here.
Councilmember Ash Mcpherson.
Here.
Councilmember Steele.
Present.
Councilmember, let's see, McDermott is on the committee.
Here.
Council President Mantello. Ex
Hello,
officio.
everyone. Just walked in. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm Councilmember Cummings. Also present is Councilmember Zalewski. And then it looks like we have quite a room over there in the top corner. Thank you all for being with us. Can you hear us? But we can't hear you. But we can if you press on. Okay, very good. All right, thank you all. Let's see. We'll jump in. I believe we're starting. Okay.
Chair,
Yeah.
may I just suggest that we might start with the gentleman from the golf course, since they have to be up at 5:30 in the morning. And I don't know if they want to sit through a 4 or 5 hour meeting, but just a suggestion.
None of us do.
Jim, we're actually starting with parking and then jumping right over to golf.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll let the folks in the room over there guide us through the order. So we're starting with parking. You want?
All right, so my name is Dan. We're gonna start on page 107, parking.
Great.
Andy, if you could
Yes.
also go to after parking, go to the revenues, that'd be great. Thank you. Sorry,
Okay.
Chair. Sorry, Chair.
No, that's all right. Thanks. That's a good idea.
All right, so my name is Dan Culleton. I'm the parking operations supervisor. I started back with the city December 20th of last year. When I came on, one of my first objectives was to try and get all the parking meters up and fully operational, since they've been down for almost a year. Once we got that operational, my next objective was to get the online permit system up and running, which took a little bit longer than we had anticipated, but is now running smoothly. My focus for this year is I would kind of like to get the street signs cleaned up. We've got quite a few that are contradicting of one another. So hopefully with Billy, we can get that taken care of. I would like to try and extend the 2-hour free parking in the residential spots to possibly 4 hours, if that's something we could do. And then I would like to try and get a pay-by-plate system off the ground. And then that's it for my wants. I will go to line 101, which is for a permanent employee, be a full-time senior parking officer. With this person, we'd like him or her to handle the outskirts of the city as opposed to the core, because right now our focus is mainly in the downtown area. The next line I'd like to touch on is 409. That was an increase of $49,000. That was for upgrading the meters from a 3G to a 4G system. The 3G will no longer be supported as of 2/1 of 22, and that is also included with a parts program from the vendor Calais. And then line 40977, that was an increase of $40,000 for updating the cameras in the enforcement van, and that is for hopefully the pay-by-plate system, if that's it. 6.
Great.
I would just like to go back to the 101 line. That is the start date of that position would be 4/1/22.
Okay,
Sure.
that makes sense.
Chair,
Yeah.
are they talking about a new position? Are they on 109?
Jumping back and forth, but 101 was the new position.
Which is on 109.
Well, yes, page 109 has the new
They're
position
flipping around on me.
listed.
That's where I'm going here.
I think Councilmember Gully had a question first.
Yeah, my question would be, if we're looking to get the outskirts of the city, wouldn't it be more of an advantage to have two part-timers working in two different areas at the same time rather than one full-timer going around the city? And I think that would also save us the additional expense. Has that ever been considered?
We already have part-time officers, Jim. This is in addition to them.
Is there a reason why we can't add two more part-time officers to the part-time officers we already have?
Well, you certainly could, but the challenge we have right now is that most people know that after a certain time or before a certain time, they know that they don't need to they don't need to pay the meter anymore. So it's just more of an additional enforcement officer to help with Dan. And then we're also limited, especially with retirees, because we seem to get retirees for these positions, on how much money they can earn with the retirement system. So they're limited in how many hours they can work.
I have
Okay.
a couple. Anything else, Jim?
No, I'll take that for now.
I've got a couple of follow-up questions on the pay by plate system. I think that would be a big upgrade, and I look forward to it. Does that require upgrades to the actual pay stands as well to allow for plate entry, or has that already been done?
So yeah, we would have to upgrade the programming on the machines, which really isn't a lot to it. And then there was already an alphanumeric keypad on the machine. It's just covered up by a sticker currently. So yeah, the biggest thing would be just to get the programming from the vendor, and then I would just load it on there.
Okay, so it's just peel a sticker off and update the program. So that would be, I guess, be done maybe simultaneous with the 4G upgrade.
Ideally, yeah, that would be nice.
I guess, is there any? It seems like 4G will probably be around for a while, but is there any discussion of jumping to 5G, or I don't know that we have the coverage for it quite yet downtown to jump straight to 5G.
Well, there hasn't been discussion yet from the vendor. Well, I'm honestly surprised they have 4G at this point. So
okay, understood. And okay, any other questions from other council members? Councilmember Steele, do you have a question?
Yes, thanks. Could you, for those of us who are technically challenged, could you explain what the pay-by-plate system actually is? Thank you.
all right, so the patron would walk up to the machine. At that point, they would enter their license plate into the machine. Then they would choose their form of payment, whether it be coin or credit card. And then at that point, they would have an option to receive a printout of the receipt or have no receipt. And then their transaction's been paid for. And then our enforcement vehicle in turn would, they would be able to scan the plates, and that's how we see if patrons are paid for. I probably didn't explain
That makes sense. So the big benefit for folks is that our staff doesn't have to check every dash for a pay slip. They drive by, and the computer will basically automatically tell them this person's paid, this person hasn't, this person's paid, etc. And it just flags the folks who haven't paid yet. Is that the idea? Makes enforcement faster and easier. I've talked about this in the past. I don't think we're quite there yet, but as that rolls out, I think it'll be worth talking about our penalty rates. If we can be consistently catching people by driving through, I think we could probably drop the penalty rate down. I think a penalty should be basically a calculation of the chance of being caught for not doing it times what it would have cost otherwise. And so if you're caught half the time you try to cheat the meter, then the cost should be $10-15. If you're caught, 1/25 of the times, then the cost should be 50. So I think that could be a beneficial thing to look at in the next phase as we roll that out, and as we see the level of efficiency we're getting to with catching folks who are not paying. Do you have a follow-up question, Sue?
Yeah, I just, I missed when the senior parking officer would actually begin.
4/1.
4/1,
Yep.
And these salary savings listed are primarily from that, or?
All salary savings. Primarily from that position.
Chair?
Councilmember Gully.
Could
Oh,
you
sorry,
just do me a
Councilmember.
favor?
Well,
Go ahead.
Councilmember Raj Mcpherson, I think, was in line. Sorry.
Thank you. Dan, can we look at, on 109, you're looking at a senior parking, a new position. Are you also looking at an additional parking supervisor?
No, that's myself, or correct? Yeah, no,
That's Dan.
that's my,
So just the senior parking enforcer that you're looking for full-time to do
Correct.
exactly
to enforce, like I said, ideally, I'd prefer them to start enforcing on the outskirts of the core of the city, and then, as the day goes on, work their way in the core of the city, because we already have 3 guys right now in the core. And then to help out possibly where we need.
So you want a person on the outskirts of the city, north and south, and then you want to bring them into the city where you already have 3, like you just said?
Well,
Yeah,
because the guys, well, it would be when the other gentlemen leave for the day, they would migrate down into the core, because those other guys are part-time, so they're leaving by 2 o'clock in some instances. So it'd be nice to have them come down as the other guys leave, and then we have almost, coverage in the core.
This position would also assist in the streets department on their daily ticket writing to free up currently a laborer that's doing it now.
Okay. Can we go to page 107 under the consultant service line 409? When you first started speaking, you went rather quickly on this, and I'd just like you to go over it again. You said there's an increase of 50,000 on this line?
Yes.
For what?
So that's with the modem upgrade from 3G to 4G. That's included in that, and then we are on a parts program from the vendor as well. So anytime a part is to fail on the meter, we basically swap out the bad part and send it back to them. So that is included in that, which.
So this line here, the 50,000 increase on this line is to maintain the meters that we have right now and any services or parts that they need.
That and then the modem upgrade.
And the modem upgrade from 3G to 4G. Okay. And then line 409, you said that is to do the additional 40,000 is for?
409.77.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
77.
Yeah, so that is for the camera upgrade in the vehicle. Right now we have the enforcement van is equipped with cameras, but in order to go to the pay-by-plate, that system would have to be upgraded as well.
So we're not at the pay-by-plate yet.
Not yet.
So where is the funding you're looking for the pay-by-plate? Did I miss that?
The 409, right?
409.
The first four, that's the 50,000 for the pay-by-plate?
The infrastructure for pay-by-plate is already in place, it sounds like. The cameras are needed.
Well, the cameras have to, that whole system through Secure Watch has to be upgraded as well, what they're telling me. What we have, it currently doesn't, it won't provide what we need. It needs to be basically either overhauled or up, what I was told.
So what I'm asking is, you're talking about a pay-by-plate, and I'm asking where the funding is for the pay-by-plate. Is it in the 50,000? Is it in the 40,000? Is it the first 409 line, or is it in the 40977?
Pay-by-plate is in account 40977. Account 409 is the parts program and the upgrade from 3G to 4G.
So the 40977 is for the pay-by-plate.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was trying to find out, where that was coming from. I had no idea what line you were talking about on that. So in that 40,000 additional is for the pay-by-plate and the cameras upgrading.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have Council President Mantello and then Councilmember Gully.
Okay, apologize. All right. So the consultant services. So this year, Andy, there was budgeted, you figure 140. Now we're bumping it to 187. You said that we spent 100K in the last 6 months. What we spend that on?
That's a formula subtracting the current budget from the first 6 months expenditures. To
Right,
date,
so
409 is, so to date, the total amount to date, we have between payments and purchase orders, $128,000. The principal portion of that payment is the payment to Fundamental Business Services, which is the parking ticket software for collection.
So I don't know. Where did we get the estimate for this 187? I'm just curious who estimated that. And you're saying we have no money left from this year, correct?
There's still $10,000 left in the account as of today.
Okay. And who did the estimate, Andy or Dan, for the 187 and the 81?
It was based, so the 187 was based off of an estimate that I believe Dan and Chuck received for the parts program for Calais, the software upgrade from 3G to 4G, and then looking back at the historical cost of Calais, FBS, and Passport.
Okay. And Dan, how many temporary employees do you have? Because you're bumping that up by 20. Obviously, you know, there's an investment in the parking department. So how many temporary employees do you have?
We
So
have three currently.
Three currently. The 2022 budget reflects 4 part-time parking enforcement officers. The state, either in 2020 or 2021, increased the cap that a part-time employee can make that is collecting a New York State pension under PFRS from $30,000 to $35,000, which is the increase that you see in the budget for 2022. Okay,
so you have 4 part-time. Now you're asking for another full-time. Okay, and when we finish in this area, I'd love to go to revenues and, you know, to see obviously if, you know, revenues are going to increase over the next year. Parking permits, I was taking a look at that, but obviously 2020, we really can't go by. So 2019.
Council President,
Can I just finish, please?
I just want to clarify one point you just made. There's only 4
But wait for
part-time
me
in
to
20
finish, please. You interrupt every time, Monica. I'm getting tired of it. Please.
I'm trying to correct something you just
Okay, but let
stated.
me at least finish my sentence. Chair,
You
go
never
ahead.
let me sit there.
I'm done. I'm done.
There are 4 part-time positions projected in the 2022 budget.
Right, that's what Andy just said.
Okay, I think we're all clear on the part-time, full-time breakdown. I would like to move to revenues in a minute, but I think Councilmember Goli had a question first.
I was a little confused by a statement that Chuck made. He said that this full timer would also be used to help streets to write tickets so that it would free up a laborer. I'm a little confused because I didn't know we had laborers writing tickets. And how does that match up?
We have been, Jim, and that's what we're trying to avoid, is have this individual help and assist to free up the labor to do that.
That's been done for
It's been done for a very long time. So that's what we're trying to switch out.
Laborers writing tickets? I'm surprised.
It's been done since long before we were here.
Well, at 64, I guess you can learn something every day.
Okay, we'll move to revenues.
Chair, real quick,
Okay.
just real
Councilmember
quick.
Ash
What else
McPherson.
they were do besides writing ticket?
Say that again?
What else does that laborer do besides writing a ticket?
Everything that a laborer would do in the city of Troy for the streets department, regards to filling potholes, weed whacking, cutting grass, city properties.
Okay, thank you.
Chair?
Okay. Yeah, Council President.
Yep.
Hello.
Real quick, Chuck, how is this integrating with Quinn? Is he involved in the whole software upgrade and 3G to 4G and all that?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Revenue is on page 12. We're proposing parking lot revenue roughly double and parking meter revenue.
I mean, as the council president had a
Right,
very
obviously
good
that's
point
since
about
2020.
elections. I mean,
Yeah, you're right. So compared to estimates, it's relatively modest. Can you speak to, are there any comparables this year? Are we still seeing significant COVID effects that are making it?
the amounts budgeted for parking garages and parking lots are based off of the current enrollment in each respective location. So we pulled the most recent data to get the most accurate number possible moving forward.
Okay. And then meter revenue is just a slight increase over the 2021 estimate. Where are we in actuality in 2021?
190.
Parking meters. As of, sorry, I have to pull the account up.
That's right. While you're looking at that,
as of September 30th, $143,264.
okay, so that's pretty on track to meet estimates, it sounds like. And what are the availability rates in the garages and lots?
I have to pull that sheet up. So based on, are you asking for current or how it was budgeted for in 2022?
I thought you said those were the same.
So we budgeted full capacity at Fifth Avenue Garage, almost just the full capacity minus 3 spaces in State Street Garage, full capacity at 4th Street lot, about 50% capacity at Congress Street, full capacity at Front Street, full capacity at Green Island lot, plus additional spaces that are being created currently, and almost full capacity at Y lot.
Okay. When was the last time we've done any systematic analysis, or have you gone through just to see how many spots are actually empty in those lots over time when they're quote unquote full?
So I do a count maybe once or twice a week. I'll go through the garages just because, I mean, as far as what the numbers are saying, they are sold out, but then we'll do a drive-through and there's maybe 100 open spots in like the Fifth Avenue garage, and then probably close to the same for State Street. So, you know, I get a lot of calls from people complaining because optically they don't look like they're being sold, but as far as what we're, you know, the numbers are showing, it's saying we have no availability. So, I go through there probably once a week and do a count just for my own sanity.
So do we sell to 125% capacity or something like that, if I recall correctly?
I believe that's what the oversell is.
I'd have to check.
Generally 10%.
I believe it's 10%.
Okay. How would we decide to increase that oversell percentage? How does that analysis work?
I think honestly, theoretically, it would really help to switch to the pay-by-plate system so that we could actually capture more utilization rates rather than bulk sell to people who don't utilize them. That would be probably the first step. I know there's a little bit of hesitation in doing that just because of previous relationships with developers. But really to kind of move forward with parking, that's the best way to actually find out actual utilization to be able to increase your oversell and or even your visitor, you know what I mean, being able to open up to day use or visitor use to be able to accommodate that a little bit better.
Yeah, certainly. Would the pay by plate in there enable you to say, you know, there's 50 empty spots right now, we can sell 20 of them to hourly parkers? You know, can you do that kind of flexible, allowing hourly parking in the garage?
I'm not saying we can't, but I think that's a little bit of a...
I think a lot of on-site management.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to change the programming all the time or add in additional kiosks.
Or just have a car counter going in and out, right?
A what?
A car
If you count the cars going in and out, you always know how many are in there, and you can say how many are subscribers and how many are guests, and at some point you cut off the guests, but
I know that they
honestly, generally, what I would guess is that given the numbers you're talking about and given the numbers I've seen, you could generally basically just allow guests to park on the hourly basis, but you'd have to at some point know when you have to cut that off.
Yeah.
Another thing about
they've revived the parking committee, and I know Dan's been meeting with I don't know, I think there's 5 or 6 of them on that committee.
Yeah.
And I know that that's something, because they're trying to look forward, you know, what to do with the current on-site, the current off-site, and then how to grow. really kind of, a lot of it determines on what the commercial market does over the next couple of years. But we obviously want to be ready if there is a surge of residential and or commercial interaction again, especially because a lot of our vacancy that was created through COVID was actually filled through the closure of the garage. So it's a little bit of an artificial fill, but it actually helped us. We benefited from that to a little bit of a degree, but at the end of the day, it didn't do anything good for the city to close that down because we lost parking numbers. So we have to be on the forward thinking of that so that committee's regained strength.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, at the hourly parking rate, and we'd be talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars if we could sell some of those spots. So, if we could sell, 100 spots, that's $288,000 a year that we could theoretically that's if we sold them all the time. Obviously it's not going to be all the time, but I think, garages people like parking in garages. It's a consistent, easy place to park. So if we could capitalize on that, I think it would help a lot on the revenue side. Do other council members have questions on revenue? I think I've made my point there.
Here.
Yeah, Councilmember Gully, and then Council President Mattel.
Dan, it's not unusual to go to any one of the 6 or 7 markets around the area and always see somebody parked in those fire lanes. And I know they're private property. But is there any way to set up some type of agreement with these properties where our guys can go in there and if they see somebody enforce a ticket there, because that would be a good ticket to enforce? It always seems to happen around the first and second week of the month and the last week of the month. But I'm just wondering, is there any way to get deeper into that type of enforcement?
I mean, if we worked with the property owners, I don't see why not. If they're the ones that are, complaining and it's becoming an issue for everybody, I could certainly have somebody, head down that way and give the site a look and see what it looks like.
I guess my thought is the fact that instead of waiting for them to complain to us, I believe it's about a $200 fine for each one of those tickets. And it certainly beats, the alternative when people are doing the wrong thing in those places. And there's people who get, handicapped people that get blocked from these entrance races. People have a sense of entitlement. So my thought is if we could just generate either a letter of agreement with these property owners, we'd be able to travel in there anytime and just protect their property and protect their investment, and also watch these fire lanes as we go along to make sure that they're staying clear. And in a sense, we'd make some money in the beginning off the fines, but my biggest hope is that we'd educate these enlightened people and entitled people, and we would get them to understand that they should park where everybody else parks so that those areas are open.
Yeah, we can make that a point of emphasis for sure.
We can have Rick look into the concept of maybe like the TAP program that we have for trespassing to see if there's a parallel out there. We can have Rick look into that about whether we can enforce traffic on private land.
That would be great. I think all it takes is a letter of acceptance by the landowner, but he could better square to that. He's more knowledgeable in that area. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Council President Mantello?
There we go. My computer would not unmute. Just a couple quick things. The parking fines, Andy, over on page 13. A 302610-0421. We're estimating 800. How much do we have to date this year? Because we estimated 700 for this year.
I'm pulling it up right now. Pardon.
Okay, thank you.
As of October 8th, $359,813.
Wow, so we're going to be about 350 short, or do you envision some type of amnesty again that, the first one I think was semi-successful. That's, obviously a drop.
The second, well, the one we did last year wasn't as successful.
I know.
We could check the numbers and consult with FBS. Where we go the rest of the year, I would imagine there'll be a budget shortfall, but we're still collecting revenue right now as we go. Part of the issue is there's a COVID impact still to that account. So if with 350 through the end of the third quarter, but the first quarter was only 78,500. So it's trajecting up as the year goes on. We didn't turn the parking meters back on until March 1st of this year, which certainly has an impact on it, right? And then so we're not seeing a full year of data this year. It's more 8 months, as of October 8th, so it's really 7 months of revenue if when you really break it down because of the first 2 months not having the meters on.
Okay, keep us posted, please. And I guess, so now we're talking a pay-by-plate, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm asking this question, and we're proposing that for the garage also. And at the end of 2020, there was the big announcement of the pay-by-phone parking app and the Passport parking mobile app, and the mobile app obviously on the streets, and then also launching an online payment portal for monthly parking permit holders at the lots in the garages. So is that in? And are we transitioning away from that? And, I know we also have that parking study that was done. I'm just trying to piece everything together with what's proposed, what's been done, and what was proposed in the parking study.
So we're currently using Passport, which is the mobile one that you were talking about. That'll coincide with the pay-by-plate. That'll just be another form of payment. If we roll out the pay-by-plate, we roughly made $76,000 so far is what the app is used for online payments, and then obviously the permits as well. And then they did create a portal where they can pay their fines online as well through FBS on top of purchasing their permits. So.
Okay. And Dan, thank you. You said that we received 76 so far? Where is that in the budget? Is that the part of the 190, the parking meters, or?
Yes, it's tied in with the parking meters.
Okay, so.
I believe.
Andy?
So for the revenue.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
The Passport.
That's all right.
The parking meters, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Okay. Let's see. I do have two quick questions on the app. Overall, it's been a big improvement. There are two features that I always have been pushing for, and I don't know whether this is something that needs to be brought up through them or whether they have modules to do it. One is allowing people to pay for a future parking time. So like right now, I type in a zone and it just says zone's not available. But I know particularly in the downtown for folks who are working in the service industry and others, you may want to be able to pay for your 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. parking slot if you're staying out late or if you're working late. Is that a thing that you've talked to Passport about, or that may be possible through the pay-by-plate system instead?
I haven't spoke to Passport about the prepayment yet. I can certainly bring it up just to see if it's something that they're capable of doing. I'd like to imagine they could, but I'll certainly bring it up with them and
Great.
I'll report back.
Thank you. And then, let's see. There's one other. I think that's it for now. Any other questions from other council members? Oh, no, I do remember the second thing. The second thing I wanted to just go through sort of the money when someone spends, you know, they pay $1 on the app for parking, it charges an extra fee of, is it 25 cents? Oh. To use the app.
Yes. Per transaction, yep.
Do you know that 25 cents, how much goes to Passport? Does any go to Troy? And then how much goes to like a credit card processor?
I'm not 100% sure how that breaks down.
So the reason I know that a lot of credit card processing costs basically a per transaction cost and then a percentage cost. And so when people are charging $1 at a time, it's a pretty inefficient way of charging to a credit card processor. The credit card processor is going to make a lot. The app and the city of Troy are going to make comparatively less. So I don't know what it would take. Again, I guess this is a Passport feature, but it'd be great if there would be a way to pay $60 and get credits in the Passport app that you can use at any time, so that credit card processing fee is smaller, and you've paid into the app only once, which is related to a thing I've pitched a lot of times about some kind of a deal where you can pay $60, $100 for unlimited parking for a month rather than paying day by day. Have you had a chance to talk to anyone about that overall monthly street parking concept, or think about that any further? Or and can you talk to Passport about at least some kind of a credit system that reduces those payment charges for folks?
Yes.
Great. Any further questions?
Sure.
Councilmember Ash Mcpherson.
Andy, I just wanted to ask, on the page 13 on the parking fines, you said to date we've collected about 356,000.
Yes.
When in our you estimate for 2020 to be about 700,000.
Yes.
So we're about $300,000 going to be $350,000 short that we're going to be. Do you think the 800,000 you're proposing an estimate for 2022 is too high, or?
No, I think it's good. So we're still so it won't end up being 350,000 short because we're gonna continue to collect throughout the rest of the year. When you're looking, there is a COVID impact to this account where the meters were not on for January and February. So you not only lose meter revenue, you're also losing ticket revenue at the same time. So when I say it's at 350 to date, that may be through September, but that's more of a 7-month number. You know what? It's more of a 7-month number when you consider it because of the 2-month impact of COVID that it has there.
So you do anticipate collecting that other 350,000?
Not in 2020, no. 21, no. But I think 800 is a fair number for 2022.
So we will have
in addition, I mean, you also have to consider that you're going to have, there will be a full-time, assuming it's approved, the full-time parking enforcement officer will be adding revenue to the city as well. So there is a consideration for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions on parking? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will move on. Are we moving on to traffic or golf?
Well,
Thank you, yes.
It's to put a face with a name, Dan. Thank you.
Indeed.
Yep, thank you.
Hi, Dan.
Good night, Dave.
All right. So the golf course is on page 149. And we just got an update to the plan as well a couple hours ago. So if people haven't seen that in their email, look for that.
Chair,
Yes,
Yeah.
Councilmember Ashman.
can Andy maybe share that on the screen when we get to that? I think I have not had time to look. I've awake.
Yeah, I don't know that we want to go through the whole
Right.
plan today anyway. We'll focus on the budget. Obviously, maybe we can have a separate meeting to talk about the golf course plan or get an update
I like
on that.
that idea. I like that idea.
Given that it was just sent to us and that it's a big plan. But if you have any broad, it would certainly be good to get an update on where we're at with it and the broad overview. I know it was delayed, but yeah. Do you want to? Where do you guys want to start with? Can you start with the
Chair,
brief
what page?
update on the golf plan, and then we'll go into 149, which is the golf course.
Nasha, what do you want to start with? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Just a brief update on current status of bidding for the master plan. Any work that's been able to be done through you and your staff or anything like that, and then next steps.
Currently, phase one is still out to bid. It had to be put out to rebid.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you guys just say your names for the record? And we do have 7 members of the public watching on YouTube, so thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. Josh Buell, Recreation Specialist at Freer Park.
Greg Tudor, Golf Course Superintendent, Freer Park.
Great. Welcome, both of you. And yeah, so start with next steps.
So
when you think bids will be back.
Yep. Currently, phase one is out to bid. It had to be put out to rebid. Nobody bid on it the first time. The apprenticeship part of the program was waived, and now it's currently being waited for bids to be submitted, and we'll open them
November 15th.
On November 15th for phase one.
Okay. And has any money been spent out of that program for consulting or other internal work?
40,000. Yeah, 40,000 for engineering.
Okay.
For the
Great.
Designer.
Great.
We're also gonna have a pre-bid meeting. It'll be this Thursday at the golf course to answer any of the questions any of the contractors have that are gonna be bidding on the project. We'll answer their questions then and go out on the golf course and review the areas that we plan to upgrade.
That's something that council members could attend, or would that be disruptive?
Sure, it's just a bidding meeting, that's all. As long as you don't add to the conversation, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Okay, switch over to the budget, page 149. Do you want to give a brief overview of changes? And then we'll go to questions.
Sure. So temporary salaries is up $10,000. That's to help me hire another part-timer for inside the shop to reduce my overtime. I'm currently working between 6 and 7 days a week, so I'm hoping that $10,000 will afford me the chance to get somebody to work the weekends and save money on the overtime line for myself. The overtime is up $10,000. That's because we did add a full-time member to the staff that wasn't on staff last year. Eric Thompson, who's been great. He's a laborer for Greg. So that's why the overtime did increase $10,000, with the hopes of my overtime decreasing with the temporary salaries increasing. In terms of other things going up or staying the same, really the only thing going up is chemicals, and that's just inflation. The chemicals go up every year, so that's just a 3% basic increase on the chemicals. And think that's, for the most part, the changes to the budget numbers.
Are these 101 permanent salaries all contractual?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do council members have any questions?
Chair?
Councilmember Acker.
Could I
Yes.
just, if I could just do, I just like a brief rundown of what my year was like this year.
That would be lovely.
Because it was very challenging, so I just would like to explain how the year went for us. So I've been here 14 years. This was by far the most challenging summer we've had in terms of weather-related issues. And briefly, I just want to go through, the things we lost revenue-wise and how the weather impacted us as we're a 6-month, 7-month outdoor business. So we outright had to cancel 3 outings due to weather issues. These 3 groups weren't able to reschedule for a myriad of issues. So approximately we lost $15,000 in revenue there. That was simply for the fact that the course wasn't in playable condition after a day of rain or that day it rained, but we lost 3 tournaments outright. I had to postpone and reschedule 4 other outings over the course of the summer. Groups were downsized, obviously, due to change in date. People can't come, things of those natures. We had to do that 4 times this year, which is the most I've ever had to do, so 7 combined outing changes, which I've never had. The 4 postponed and reschedules approximately lost us about $10,000 in there for the loss of numbers of golfers for them not playing on their original scheduled day. The biggest impact in terms of the daily was the leagues. So the leagues did return to the golf course this year. They were very successful. Everybody's happy with the conditions of the course. Really, the reviews we've gotten from the most loyal league golfers have been all positive. However, each night had at least 4 rainouts. So that's never been the case. Usually it's a Tuesday night, we'll have 4, and then the other nights are nice during the week. Every night had at least 4. I had one day with 5. I had one day with 6 where the leagues didn't get to play, which is really extraordinary. The leagues only go from May to August. So when you think about that, that's a lot of days of rain where we couldn't get them out. So what I had to do in order to make sure, because the leagues do prepay for their golf, to make sure they got their rounds in, is that I had to schedule the leagues to play 18 holes on Sundays, which means it eats up our tee sheet on Sundays, which is our busiest day of the week. But in terms of getting league golfers, who are mostly workers, out to play 18 holes, it had to be on a weekend day. And because Saturday was an outing day for us, we had to put them on Sundays. So they would eat up an hour or 2 hours of our tee times throughout Sundays in July and August. We had to get each league done by the end of August because I have 4 high schools that use our course for high school competitions that we have to have available for them to use in the afternoon. So with that, we lost approximately between cart revenue not being out for the leagues and then Sunday revenue being chewed up by league times where the greens fees have already been paid. We lost approximately about $50,000 in revenue because of all the weather delays in the leagues and having to get them out and done by the beginning of September. Another big deterrent this year, unfortunately, was the cart path only rules. Cart path only is a deterrent for the elderly and the less mobile golfers. If they have to stay on the paths, it's harder for them to play. Many elderly won't play if it's cart path only. We've estimated that it was approximately cart path only for 65% of the year, which is unbelievable. I mean, there's years where we're cart path only for maybe 10%. We were cart path only 65% this year, which is really unheard of. It costs us about $20,000 in revenue just over the fact that people will not come out and play if they have to walk, or if they have to walk from the right side of the fairway to the left rough. It can be a chore for the older customers. We do have a big old golf face, so it's hard to, make them walk. And then the biggest issue was we were closed for parts or all of 42 days this year. And you can see it, this week is a prime example. We were closed Monday, Tuesday. We most likely will not be open tomorrow because of all the water that's on the course. It's a record in the 14 years I've worked here. I've never experienced anything like that. The biggest issue is it's not the day of rainstorm, which you're going to have all the time. There's always going to be days in the summer where it rains and you're closed for the day. These rainouts are occurring on a Thursday, and it's affecting us on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because the course is not draining the way we need it to drain. And if we can't send carts out, we can't make money. And that's really the biggest issue with it. It's not a one-day event for us. It's a 2, 3, 4-day event. So when it rains on Thursday, they call me Friday, they make a tea time, I tell them no carts, they're gonna go to Stadium, they're gonna go to Schenectady Muni, they're gonna go to Capitol Hills, they're gonna go somewhere they can take a cart. And that's our biggest challenge right now, is to get the golf course open and keep it open. And to have the conditions that people now expect from the course. People expect us to be the top municipal course in the area. We're starting to gain that reputation, and now we're looking to keep it that way. With losing 42 days, all or parts of 42 days, it's approximately $155,000 loss in revenue over the course of the summer. So that's my main. It was a challenging year. I didn't think anything would be more challenging than last year with the COVID things, and this year, for me, it was 10 times harder with the rescheduling and to try to get everybody out on the course. So that's just a brief. And that's not to mention what Greg's dealing with in keeping the course maintained and in good shape for everybody wanting to come out and play. That's my experience as the operations on the inside.
It's illuminating. Thank you. Greg, do you want to make any overall statements about the year or about plans ahead?
Well, just to echo what Josh said, we have a staff in place now that works together, that's, very successful. Everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction. And we're at a kind of a crossroads now where we've upgraded the equipment, thank you. We've increased our part-time and our full-time labor, thank you. Now we're at a place where we need to invest in the infrastructure of the golf course. We aren't able to do our jobs on a daily basis. Sometimes not at all, other times not as efficiently because we're not able to use the machines that we purchase. We're having to use hand machines or weed whackers or push mowers in many cases, which is not an efficient use of our labor. We do the best we can with repairing cart paths and getting the golfers off as efficiently as possible. But we're in need of an upgrade and thankfully we have phase 1 approved. We're in the process of bidding, so that'll start in April. We look forward to that, but phase 1 is just a piece of it. We need to finish the entirety of the project to get the course to its full potential for profitability. I know you don't want to speak to that tonight. We could, as much as you want, we're ready to talk about it, but that's kind of where we're at. We're in a crossroads where we have the equipment in place, we have the labor in place. The public is, overwhelmingly happy with the facilities. They're just not happy when we can't be open, and we have to have them on the pass. Just to speak a little bit to that, the reason we stay on the pass is if we don't do that, it'll wreck the golf course. We can't let the carts traverse throughout the course because they'll be getting stuck and causing more damage, more cost to maintain the property. So that's, as we stated, phase 1 is predominantly a drainage focus, which will improve a tremendous amount of areas, but it isn't the whole project. It's a large piece, but there's plenty of more work to be done. And as we've started the master plan, other needs have popped up. The courses now, since we did the master plan in 2019, we're a couple years older. The course is that much wetter. These areas that were wet have expanded. So it's like a leaky roof or a cracked foundation. It's just continually getting worse. So every year that we push off this project, the costs are going to go up and the revenue is going to go down.
So do you think that phase 1 still does the drainage work that's needed? I think that was my recollection, was that it focuses on pretty much all
Phase 1 is predominantly drainage. Phase 1 is predominantly drainage throughout the back 9, which is the wettest part of the course. And that's going to make a huge difference. But, we have areas on 1 fairway now. We have areas on 2, 3. We've done 4. We did a small drainage project ourselves. We've chipped off this master plan, and we've done a handful of things in-house ourselves as much as we can. But
6. there's been a lake on the 6th hole now that we've never experienced prior to this year.
It's been such a wet year that we've had areas that the players that have been playing here for 30, 40 years have never seen water standing. And you're never going to be able to afford to build a irrigation system or drainage system that's going to incorporate the entire facility. But the main focus with phase one is putting main lines in and laterals hitting these wettest areas. And myself and my staff can come in and add additional drainage as different areas pop up, because water is going to continue to move throughout the property and we're going to have to continue to address it. But now having the proper drainage with the proper piping in the proper locations, we're going to be able to expand upon that, not just through contractors, but also in-house with our machines.
Okay. So you talked about 42 days you were closed this year. If we'd already done phase one, where do you think that would have been?
I would say between 10 and 15 days.
If you think about the day of the storm, if you get 3 inches, I don't care how much drainage you have, you're going to be closed. But what we're seeing is day 2, day 3, back 9 still closed, front 9's now open, cart path only. By the 3rd day, we're completely cart path only, but we're still not off the pass. And with our course being so hilly, it's a big deterrent to golfers, even on a beautiful day. You know, here we are 2, 3, 4 days later, you're either on the path or when you're off the path, we're having to rope tremendous amounts of areas, you know, tunnels throughout the golf course to get around, and it just looks terrible. And it plays terrible, and it's just not an efficient way to do things.
Yeah, it's obviously just back of the envelope, but if $155,000 in loss was only $55,000 of loss, you know, that's an added $100,000, which I think pays for the PPU on this phase one, if I remember correctly. At any rate, we'll move to questions. Council President Mantello.
Sure. Greg and Josh, certainly a super challenging year. I was able to play toward the end of the season, a couple tournaments, and you know, if it makes you feel any better, I mean, a couple private courses were pretty drenched too on that 2nd and 3rd day, surprisingly. I mean, we just, you know, got hammered, obviously, but you guys are doing a wonderful job up there. Obviously, I was in the Queen of Clubs, and due to the 2 jobs wasn't able to join the league, but they, you know, they've golfed many seasons and said they honestly are astounded by just the improvement each year on the golf course. And obviously the capital improvements are important, but the customer service, just where the holes are being located, I mean, really, the course has improved. It's turned around 180. So I want to compliment the 2 of you. I mean, Josh, I drive through the course every morning. I see you out there at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I'm sure you're there much earlier. I saw Greg a couple times too. Real quick, if we could jump to the revenues, and, you know, obviously I get it on page 12. And we talked about this, guys, in finance. And while we're jumping to page 12, I do agree with a separate meeting on the capital plan. I think it's important, and what we can do, Councilmember Cummings, is maybe incorporate that into the we are going to be asked to bond some of the capital program in here, and we could maybe hit that prior or when we get that legislation. Then we'll have some time to look over what Andy sent tonight, if that works for you, all of you. So real quick, I mean, we did talk about the golf fees, guys, and I do want to hear it like straight from you. I mean, obviously, you know, we cannot predict Mother Nature. Mother Nature can be, you know, very, let's just say, unpredictable, as we all know. And obviously the golf course depends on Mother Nature cooperating. So we can't look back at 2020, but 2019 we did get 500K in revenues. And, you know, I get like, because I was in the league that year, and I get that the course was not at its finest. Some of the holes were, if you recall, the prior, I believe, three city councils ago, they bonded. Some of the irrigation wasn't done right. Some of the greens just had gotten ripped up. I have no clue what happened, but it was a horrible year. Maybe that was 2018. So I guess my question, the cards, I mean, that looks pretty consistent, but do you think the 610 is overly ambitious? You know, with Mother Nature, even 2019, I think we had a pretty good summer. I mean, I'll let you guys talk on that. And if you feel, you know, hey, 610 might do it, I'd be happy to hear your thoughts.
So I base those numbers, I do those with Andy. I base those numbers off what I see daily, what I see when we have good weather. The improvements we made, the demand we have for tee times is 100-fold compared to where it was 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Because even if the course was in better shape 3 years ago, 2 years ago, it started to get better, Our reputation was not the way it was now. Our reputation 2 years ago was a cow pasture that you could go and play golf in Troy, you'd pay your money, and you wouldn't get your money's worth. That's where it was, even though it was in good shape 2 years ago, Our reputation is not where it is now. Our reputation now is up there with any golf course in the area, including private clubs that people pay thousands and thousands of dollars for memberships to. So those numbers are based off a reputation of the demand I see for tee times, the demand I see when we have nice weather, trying to get people out. And there's also ways that I'm trying to work the tee sheet now with season pass holders, taking less of the tee sheet and having the public open for more of the tee sheet, so we have more of that, you know, as much money as we can make for each tee time. So it's a combination of all those things. While the course was in good shape 2 years ago, I can't repeat this enough, as a golfer and as somebody who talks to people to try to get people to come to Freer, our reputation has increased 80% from where it was 2 years ago, even though the course was in good shape 2 years ago. It's a completely different reputation as opposed to, so that's why that number I'm confident in and why I believe in it, because it's based off of what people are telling me, and the phone calls, the amount of online tee times we book now, it's just tenfold to where it was 2 years ago.
I can totally agree with that. I appreciate that. And that's the insight I was looking for, Josh. And I can tell you, I did play a couple of privates, and I know we actually had lost some people from some of the leagues, and now they're coming back, which is huge. A couple of guys they moved to Verdon Lake, they're back. So we definitely have built that reputation back, and obviously we need to be consistent. So, you know, I do applaud. I know it's a labor of love. And I know the two of you are very, very passionate about it. So, you know, I look forward to continue working with you, and we'll talk about the capital plan at, you know, an upcoming finance meeting. So thank you again.
Great. Councilmember Steele.
I want to thank you both for those updates. I just have to say, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think we need to be prepared for a lot of wetness in our future. That's what we have to live with in the short term with climate change. So to whatever extent you can adjust the programming and the items in the capital plan, I would encourage you to do that. I know you probably know that already, but I'm sorry that you had to go through the frustration of this year. But I think we have to recognize that we're not going to be able to go back. We're probably going to have rain in our future. Hopefully not as much as this year. But again, thanks to you both.
Chair.
Well said. Yes, Councilmember Ash Mcpherson.
Hi, guys. I just want to say that, you know, I'm not a golfer. The only time I ask to go to the golf course is if I can ride the cart, drive the cart, and none of these people will let me. But it's a beautiful course. I do drive my car through it on the road, and I do stop and watch what's going on. And there's a lot of people participating. I just wanted to ask a question, if you heard this. There was several people during the course of the season, that had asked me about some concerns that they had as golfing, people just walking on the course. And what came into my mind was the possibility of somebody getting hurt just going on that course when they shouldn't be on that course. Chasing a child that's running out, or somebody just walking a dog and the dog's coming through. Have you looked into any type of signage to put out there to keep people safe? I just don't know. I'm trying to.
There is signage on the course that encourages walkers to use the walking trails on the perimeter of the course and not on the course. I do usually have 1 or 2 rangers out as well patrolling the course, and ask people kindly to, stay on the perimeter, stay in by the wooded areas, to stay out of play as much as possible. It is a difficulty of our course for the simple fact that we're right in the middle of the city, and there's 11 or 12 entry points onto the course, so it's hard to keep up the whole property with people walking on. I think people have become more respectful with the course and staying off it during golf times. And then come 6 or 7 o'clock, the park is packed with people from the public using it as a park, which we enjoy seeing because people use it for multi-purposes. But we do have people out there trying to keep people off as much as possible. It is a challenge that we deal with on a daily basis because there's so many entry points. But we do have signage up at 3 or 4 of the major walking entry points as well, asking them not to come onto the course for the simple fact of flying golf balls and the chance of being injured.
Okay, thank you.
Chair?
Yes, Council President Mantello.
I did want to, as someone that lives 2 blocks, not even from the front 9 of the golf course, I did want to obviously attest that I really think that the walkers, the trail, which is exquisite, through the creeks and the ponds and Fir Park Conservancy and all the residents that do walk the park. I really think that there's a partnership. I think there's respect on both ends. We have birdhouses all through the park. And I really have to say that I think that both, all of the golfers, the recreationalists, the walkers, the dog walkers, a ton of them, I really see like people working together, and I have to attest to that. And, it was not that way, I want to say, when the trail was first begun, and there was a little friction, but I think over time that everyone really seems to respect each other and work together. So.
Chair.
Yes, Councilman
Gully. I agree with Council President Mantello for the most part. I will say that the trails are not on the golf course, they're around them. And most of the people walking the trails have a safe haven to create those trails. It's the few that decide that they're going to make their own trail through the golf cart paths around the course that really become an issue. And I have been there when I've seen the rangers ask them to be careful and to stay out of the way. I do agree, and I had this talk with Greg Tudor no more than a week ago, that I think that some signage, indemnifying the city and letting these people know that, they're moving at their own risk out on the course, that we do have trails available for them, but to move out on the course golf cart paths, that brings an additional danger to them and anybody else they're with. And I would like to see some type of signage thought up. And again, maybe we need to talk to corporate counsel to find out what is legal, what is not legal, but there should be some sort of signage so we have some type of at least protection or indemnification for the city that we're announcing that they're walking out into a dangerous area. Just my thought for the first part. The second thing is, I am an avid golfer, and I know members of the council, you probably don't get there much, but I'm there 3, 4, sometimes 5 days a week during the summer, and even up till now, still golfing a couple days a week when I can. The transition of that course, as a person who's golfed there for over 20 years, is amazing to me. What I see is country club, greens and fairways in a municipal course. Josh is, I think, underestimating that we've only improved 80%. I think it's 90 or more, because I'm out there. I hear the golfers talk, and I see people from other areas that talk about Freer Park. And I will tell you, it's an amazing thing we've got going there. I think someday we could be one of the top municipal courses in the East, or even the country, with these guys at the helm. And I applaud you guys for the work you did and the work that you're going to do. And I just hope that we could all understand that the investment into this revenue generating prize, and it will be at the end, a very, very unique prize. I hope that we can all support the growth and the finishing touches that it takes to put this course right on the top of the list, because I really do believe it has that potential. You know, the undulation and slope on that course is far better than any other one you ever play, and it'll fool the best of them. So I want to thank you guys for what you do, and certainly look forward to seeing the results, as you know I will.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Let's see. Just back to the budget briefly. I don't know if we talked about this, and we've been going in circles a little bit, but I just wanted to double check. The equipment and capital line is up significantly. Is that golf carts, or what is that?
That is for the items in the capital plan on page 273. It's for a fuel storage system, green rollers, a chemical storage building, and a fertilizer spreader.
Okay, so those are all in the budget. That makes sense. Great. Thank you. Any further questions from council members? Okay. Thank you, Josh and Greg.
Thank you.
And we will, are we moving to traffic or what?
Yeah, Bill's here.
See Bill in the room?
I am.
Okay.
Bill, could you just make sure to introduce yourself? Thank you.
Sure, Bill Wangler, Traffic Supervisor.
Welcome, Bill. If you could go over, obviously adding one position, and then I'd like to talk a little about the capital plan, but any other highlights?
Page, please.
Oh, sorry, 103.
$103.
Yep.
The overtime?
We'll start with the new position. You've got an added sign maintenance person.
Yes. We talked with Monica about the sign maintenance person. We have one gentleman who's out on workers' comp and may actually retire after it's up. So it's going to be a few months anyway before he's going to be back. So right now there's 3 people. I have one electronics technician, me, and another sign maintenance person. So that's what we have now. So we're really short-staffed. I think at one point my department had 8 people.
That makes sense.
We could definitely use the help. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then would the idea be that once he does retire, we eliminate that position, or add it back in and have additional support? Obviously, we're talking about a whole new wayfinding system. There's all sorts of work to do.
Yeah, we're going to add it back in. We're not going to lose it. Anasha.
Okay.
We're going to add it back in. Yeah.
So it'd be supplemental until if he retires, or it'd be basically backfilling until and if he retires, and then it'd actually add capacity after that.
Sure.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's see. Any other highlights you want to talk about here?
Well,
materials and supplies are
equipment. On 203, $15,000. That's going to be for a new paint machine. We're going to get a paint machine that actually has a cart behind it, so it can do manual push or you can use the cart. That'll allow us to do a little bit more in the streets, like, I know Mill Road is one. Of course, we can't get paint, so that's part of the problem with this year is we can't get the paint, but when we do, we'll be able to get some of those skip lines on Mill, Campbell, places that need things like that, because pushing a cart is, it's actually pretty dangerous. So it's just bringing us up to a little bit more modern. I think the paint machine we have now is somewhere north of 20 years old, so.
Oh, okay.
So that's that. And as far as like some of our equipment, I mean, I do have 30, I think I have 31 intersections right now.
That was, sorry, that was the
which
small
would-
tools and equipment, the 25K?
The 25K?
Small tools and equipment, 302.
Is that what?
Small tools and equipment, yeah, the 25,000 would be the paint machine, yeah.
That was the paint machine you're talking about? Okay, just wanted to double check that. And then everything else looks pretty flat. Good. Let's see, I had notes about the need for a sign truck. Did that ever get purchased last year? Or is that what's being proposed in the capital plan?
There was a sign truck being proposed in the capital plan. That would be, I know I was talking to Sean Hooley and maintenance. It might be on order. That's going to be a truck that would have a compressor, probably a welding type unit or an acetylene cutter, so we can do some more work. Because we also do guardrails, which is another thing we do. So having an air compressor is something that we don't have right now. It was on one of the older trucks that had been retired because it was, at the time, it was dangerous.
Okay. And then we've got a traffic truck with an aerial lift. Is that the same truck or is that?
Nope. So we're looking at buying, that's part of it is buying an aerial truck that can actually go much higher than the one I have now. Mine is 32 feet. I believe it's more along the lines of 50, right, Chuck? It would be a 50-footer. We incorporate a lot of trees now. We do trim and cut down a lot of trees, and in order to do that in the city, especially for us, we don't have cranes or equipment like that. What we normally do is I'll go up and limb them all the way up, and then we have just trunks and just small pieces, and then down we can basically drop them right in the middle of the street and, relatively not hurt anything. So that's part of it. And having a higher lift, you can't cut trees below them. It's just dangerous. So you have to get up and out of the way. So it'll increase us, I believe, in doing that also. It's going to help around the city doing more work for, I believe, building and maintenance. We support and projects like that need lights changed. Because between us and maintenance, we do most of the electrical work in the city. So.
Yeah. Good to hear. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if this is a question for you directly or for the deputy mayor. But certainly, we've been expanding the street tree maintenance program across the city. Does that explicitly fall under this department, or is it just sort of a? Yeah. What is there a strategy happening for overall tree maintenance?
So a lot of it was conditioned on the ash borer program that we just completed. I know that they worked with Bill. It was kind of a multi-department effort. It was streets, it was Bill's department with traffic, it was planning. We had to bring in some of our contractors to do some of the work depending on where they were. Sometimes we have to call National Grid if there's wires involved. So it's really a multi-part effort. I will tell you the work that we just completed in Barker Park, in addition to the work that Bill did for the police department the day before, we actually contracted with the local arborists to actually trim and thin the trees in Barker Park. And that's something I think when we go out to tree work again for RFP, we'll include that as well. I do know that I talked to Chuck about setting up some sort of like program, pilot, call it something, where the departments took a couple blocks, focused in on whether trees needed trimmed, whether they needed cut and replanted, removed and replanted, or whatever they needed to do, and go like by a couple block at a time process. So that's making sure that we coordinate with planning, making sure we, coordinate with the building department, that there's no work going on, that they aren't planning to come out anyway. So I know that they've been working on that as well for the spring.
Yeah, I mean,
really,
we just invested it.
Until we get an arborist
Yeah,
on staff.
Okay, sorry, my connection's unstable, but arborist sounds helpful.
Yeah, the arborist would help, but we just got to get bodies in to build these departments back up. And Bill needs it more so just for his regular work outside of tree trimming, just for streets and crosswalks and postings and signs and traffic lights. And, he's also, we have built into the Siemens project the street light maintenance. But, eventually he will probably take on some of that work as well. But that's in the future, but we have to build up to the capacity where his department's going to be able to handle that and be able to handle all the other work too.
Okay.
So Nasha, just to interrupt, some of the tree trim, we don't do as much trimming except for like the cameras for the police and stuff like that. A lot of it has to do with actually cutting the trees down. That's when we get involved because it's just safer and easier for us to get the trees down to a level where we can just drop them and remove them safely. So that's primarily what we do. We're not actually tree maintenance where we're going to go down or we're arborists and trim trees except when necessary, like lower limbs, something that's interfering with traffic or the public safety.
Where is the line for a tree when it's City of Troy responsibility and when it's a homeowner's responsibility?
Quite honestly, if we can do it safely. Depending on what it is, if it's an obstruction and Bill says he can do it, yes. If it's somewhere that involves electrical lines or some other lines, then no, that's usually where we stay away from for the safety of our employees, and that's when we contract out.
Okay. Any other council members have questions on the traffic budget?
Yeah, Chairperson Cummings.
Yes, Councilmember Tulowitzki.
All right, so I know we were talking about trees. I would like to shift the conversation. I know Bill's expecting this. I'd like to shift the conversation to traffic signals, and specifically traffic signals on the east side where we have a conversation going on within our Facebook group that has certainly grown in the last 12 hours. Bill, I did pass along the remarks that you had given me a few weeks ago regarding the timing at the Pinewoods and Pauling intersection. So I just actually, let me just rewind for a second and give us some history. So back in, I think it was 2015, when my previous tenure on the council, we passed bonding for reinventing all of the street signals across Pauling Avenue and around the east side. And that project, I think, started up in between 2015 and 2016. And since all of these lights were rolled out, it seems like there have been problems. There's issues with timing. There's issues with the smart sensors. There's issues with pedestrian crosswalks. Then we spent a year with the intersection at Campbell and Spring after the drunk driver hit the pole. That was down for the better part of a year. That's now up and running, and it doesn't seem like there's any smart signalization going on there either. So I've got a whole bunch of questions that neighbors are asking, and I'm probably going to package everything up and put it into an email for you. But the bottom line is that that timing on Pinewoods. I've got people sending me photos of long backups of cars all the way up Pinewoods that the light is only staying green on the Pinewoods side for 3.5 seconds or just a few seconds, and only 3 or 4 cars get through. I have a photo from a constituent at 7:30 in the morning when there really shouldn't be much of a backup, and it's a huge line of cars. Folks are wondering why the no turn on red sign was added to that intersection when prior to that, traffic could freely get out onto Pauling Avenue. We've got crosswalks that are possibly activating on their own without people pressing the buttons, which is of course causing traffic stoppages. There's a question about, can we add if we're going to have the no turn on red, why not add a green arrow, a right turn arrow from Pinewoods onto Pauling, when the green arrow on Pauling is allowing traffic to turn left onto Pinewoods. So I've got a ton of ideas that people are throwing out there, issues that people are experiencing with crosswalks, signals at Spring and Myrtle, Spring and Maple. It's just a pile of stuff. And I want to get it addressed because it feels like I've been talking about this for the last 5 years. And the city spent money on this. Of course, a lot of it was we got grant funds as well, and then we had to match some. But overall money was spent on this project, and I just like to see it working correctly. It feels like we've had a lot of back and forth, and not just you, Bill. Even before you. But so anyway, it's something that I want to get addressed. I don't think obviously we're just going over the budget right now, but I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to package up a bunch of stuff, and I just want at least an investigation on the various intersections. I'd like to do some type of inventory on what's working, what's not, what the various settings are. I have one woman who wrote to me and said, well, because I told, I put out there how Pauling Avenue stays green all the time unless a vehicle activates the light on Pinewoods. But I guess you sent her an email at one point that said, well, no, there's actually a combination of timing and active and smart activation. So I just want to get definitive answers for everybody and take an inventory of what's working, what's not, and then find a way to move forward. So I'm just putting that out there because I think traffic signalization is a big issue. I'm a big proponent of stop signs over stop lights and traffic lights. But I understand it's got to be, we have to have a balance of that. So my one question, by the way, not related to all of this, is on traffic signals, we've got 85,000 allocated. What do we use that money for? Is that for replacing signals that are defective? Is it bulbs? And what do we do with that money?
That's the utilities line, I think. Just for electricity, right?
Yes. Oh, is that just electricity?
That's National Grid, Ken.
Okay, so that's what we pay to National Grid per year.
Yep.
Okay.
That comes out of my budget.
And what's the line where we have the actual equipment, the signals themselves, the lights, the bulbs, the connection points to the wires, all of that?
For repairs, it would be under 303, but for large installations, it would be project-based.
Which would be outside the scope of this category.
Correct. This is everyday maintenance. Like if a light goes out, this is where he replaces that. If he needs wiring, if he needs a button, those kinds of things.
Yep.
Versus a larger installation would be a project like we did at Campbell.
Yeah. So with the 45,000, then you said 303, right?
Yep.
So with the 45,000, I guess my question is, given the fact that there are potentially issues, and Bill, I know we were talking about that you were back ordered on some parts for some of these. I think they were the crosswalks. Is the 45,000 enough to cover any potential defects that we find in these installations?
So there are no defects in the installations. It's the way they were engineered. So they're actually operating the way they were. Aaron is involved with this also. So I had invited you out, and so anytime you would like to come out and walk with us, you can. And we could show you the timings. I can open up the cabinets, and we'll show you how everything works. This is designed by, I believe, the engineer would have been Cloud Harbor, or I'm not sure.
That installation actually, I think it went in 2013 or 14. It was a long time ago that we did that.
Yeah.
So the actual designs of them are a little bit different. So it used to be timed, and now it is the other way. And as far as, we can answer all the questions as far as the no turn on red, I guess there was tickets issued by the Troy Police that got changed. We were asked to install those signs. The signs are exactly at the sensor, so they have to stop there or back. If they don't, which they do all the time, they go past that, they can sit there. If it's 1 o'clock in the morning, they'll sit there until somebody comes up behind them. So there are things that can be potentially done where the cameras would be put in. And Spring and Campbell, that is actually 100% operational. It has been for 2 months, a month and a half.
Okay, we're not using
I can have
cameras.
Steve Atkins, the cameras for the detection. So there's 2 cameras. They look like bells. They're up on the very top. They do all the detection for Spring and Campbell. They are 100% activated, and it's actually state of the art. It's the same type of system that's in South Troy, and it's the same type of system that's on Oakwood Ave and Leversea.
Okay, so Bill, thank you. So then there's cameras at Spring and Maple, right?
Spring, Campbell, and Maple, yes, correct.
Yeah, there's cameras for that intersection. What about Pine Woods and Pauling? There's no cameras there, right?
No, nope.
So that's something in the ground that's sensing.
Yes, and that's something I talked to Aaron. We can on a state contract eventually, if that's something they want to do, we can. But you know, I've been in contact with Aaron, who's on now. So we've been discussing this and figuring out what we can do.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
but this hasn't been an issue. So Ken, I want to tell you, this hasn't been an issue this entire time until it started. You know, just not too long ago. The pedestrian buttons, I can answer that. The pedestrian buttons were. It was the cards that were in them. They're called Campbell buttons. And it's the company that has the card that fits in the computer that actually operates them. They found they were defective. The city of Albany had to replace all of theirs. The state DOT had to replace all of theirs. Nope, there was, of course, in traffic, there's no like newsletters that come out and say, hey, by the way, these things are bad. So all of a sudden we find these things just keep continuously going. And if you went out in the middle of the night, you would see that all the lights on the pedestrian buttons were on. So they had constant calls, which then interfered with the operation. So our engineer from Northeast Signal, we purchased all the equipment from, is coming up, not this week, but next week. And each intersection we're going to go over one at a time. And I talked to Aaron about this. It'll be 100% after we get done. So emails will come out after that. But again, these aren't pedestrian buttons that are going to stop traffic completely, like on Hoosick and 8. These are very much actuated with the actual movements of the traffic. That's the way they're engineered. That's the way most of them are engineered. So they're not going to be all stops, which I think some people want. That's just not the way they are. It's the same as if they go on the movement of the actual traffic.
Okay.
So I can send you all the literature. I'm sure Aaron could also. So I'd love to talk to you. I've invited you to come out and meet with us plenty of times. If you'd like to, anytime, we'll meet you with Aaron and anybody else who wants to come out there, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to meet. I'm happier if we just get the parts in and get the lights, to get the signals fixed. Like, that would make me happier.
Well, everything's working correctly, Ken. There's things that have to be tweaked, but if you have a problem with something, then maybe we should talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it does, like, so I'm happy to look at, like, I'm into, like, devices and stuff, and I can look at the boxes and see how everything's set up. But what's more important is the experience of the residents and what's happening, like, when they're, when they're at the light. So.
Okay. I can't explain it to you until I get you there. So come on out.
Great, thank you all. I guess the core budgetary question there, the underlying budgetary question is, were we to decide to add a couple cameras to that intersection, is that something we need to add to the budget now? And what would the cost of that be?
Under the state contract, I believe they're around just under $14,000. So if that's something, I'll talk to Aaron about it. We have discussed that. If that's something we can do, that certainly we can do that also.
The 14 per intersection or per camera?
For the camera, 14,000. That's not including installation. That's just for the camera under a state contract.
And do those tie in with the system that currently exists at that intersection?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Everything's been updated through there. Yep.
All right. So it'd be $14K per camera.
And I believe we could probably get away with one there. Some intersections, due to their size, have to have two. Spring and Campbell has two.
Right,
Spring
but so
Campbell
in this
Maple.
case, you wouldn't necessarily need one on Pauling, you just need one facing up Pinewood.
I think one on Pauling would probably work for Pine Woods. Generally, in smaller intersections, that doesn't have a lot of movements in it. It would probably work with one camera.
Okay, thank you. We will put that in the report for the committee. Any other questions on traffic control budget? Council President Mantella?
No problem. I do want to thank Bill. I know that you're pretty stressed out, and I just really want to say thank you. Anytime I have called you, texted you, you've been very, very, very responsive. So thank you to you and your department. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Great. Agreed. Let's see. I guess the only other question I have on traffic control is for Monica, who I guess
Just stepped out of
I don't. Oh, that's okay. We can talk about that. I guess, does anyone know, will there be any involvement by the traffic control department directly in the Wayfair signage rollout? Wayfinding signage, sorry, wayfinding rollout, as that?
I believe, Anash, I believe that was talked about a couple of years ago, and because of that really, I haven't heard that term in a couple of years, but if they are going to do it, I believe she was going to contract it out.
Okay.
It was going to, so the new Wayfair signs for the city and pointing out the docks, different things like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
Right, the street.
Yeah, there was a significant amount of
I
design
believe
work done, paid for by the Troy Redevelopment Foundation and others. Yeah, just aiming to make downtown, particularly for starters, a little more visitor friendly, but then expanding that outwards. I think you're probably right. It'll start with contractors in the core downtown, but I would imagine we'd like to have more and more of our signs across the city be within those standards, within the design guidelines. So something to look out for in the future, I guess. It doesn't sound like it'll be under your department directly in the near term. Okay, so we'll move on unless there's any other questions. Any other closing comments, Bill? Thanks for being here.
No, thank you all for listening. That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Chairperson Cummings.
Oh, actually, before you leave, yep, Councilmember Zalewski.
Yeah, so I want to thank you, Bill, and thank you, Aaron, both. And yeah, I'll make time to meet at any intersection you want to meet at, and we can go over, some of the particulars there. So thank you.
Yeah, Ken, that would be, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Great. And before you leave, I can't quite tell who all's in the room there yet. Is Sean Hooley there yet?
He is, but I think we're gonna have Aaron go next.
Okay, but before Bill leaves, I just want to get clarity on the capital plan, the sign truck in the capital plan versus the other. Is the sign truck itself in the capital plan this year, or is that a future year?
Oh, it is. It's in there. Yeah, it's under general services.
Is that the pickup truck with toolbox, or?
No, it says traffic truck with aerial lift.
Okay, so the aerial lift truck is the sign truck. We were a little going back and forth on whether that was the.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so Bill, does that aerial lift truck meet the needs that you were talking about with the compressor and everything else?
There was two, right? The one was a bucket and one was a sign truck? Or just the aerial lift?
As far as I knew, there was only one truck.
The one truck.
We really haven't had a conversation about like the specific use case that you have, other than needing another bucket truck.
Right, gotcha. Okay.
Because we have two, and one of them is on its way out. One's dead.
So I believe that was the one bucket. I know we were talking about a sign truck, but I think I misinterpreted, because at one time we were talking about a sign truck too, but that was, like, remember a small little rack truck kind of that would do signs and
Yeah, so that,
a miscellaneous kind of thing?
that would fit within the capital plan as it's written right now. If there's a need for that, and
Right.
we talk about that.
Okay.
That would fit in there. There's enough, if we.
So Sean and I will have a conversation about that. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, that's good. I guess the core question for us is, do you agree that the aerial truck is a higher priority this year? Obviously, you can talk about it beyond that.
Yeah, yes, yep, sure, yeah.
Okay, well, great. Make sure you plan for that in future years, and we'll move on. Where do you say that we wanted to go next, Monica?
Aaron.
All right,
He's on
thanks
Zoom.
again, Bill.
Bill, can you
And
make
welcome,
the-
Aaron.
Good evening.
Engineering Department on page 59.
You guys want me to start with a little introduction, or?
Please.
All right, so it's been a pretty busy year for us. We're sitting around somewhere.
I'm sorry, Aaron, can you just say your name for the record? Thank you.
Sure, my name is Aaron Vera, city engineer.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's been a pretty busy year. We're cruising through our paving program this year. We went out for 2 separate bids to get competitive pricing, and we are about halfway through those two bids. They'll extend into the next year. Chip in my office has been doing a fantastic job coordinating with those contractors and assisting in the repair of a lot of our curb ramps. We've done hundreds of curb ramps over the last few years, bringing them up into ADA compliance. Then we've also been working on managing a few of the larger projects. We've got the State Street Garage, rehabilitation of that structure's nearing completion. We've got a couple of drainage things to handle within the building, but the staircase is done and it's open. We're progressing on the DPW building up on 7th. Steel was just arrived on site today, so we should really start to see some progress up there. That's part of the Siemens Phase 3 project. And then we've also, been trying to work on recouping some costs. So we had a few demos this past year, and we've been pretty successful on recouping costs from either insurance companies or banks or whomever is responsible for the property. And we're going to continue to do that moving forward with the ARP funds that were set aside for demolitions. A couple of goals for next year. We're looking to increase our availability of GIS mapping, our use of GIS mapping to track pavements and curb ramps and intersections, traffic control devices, things of that nature, just to do a better job of using modern technology to maintain records and assist in decision making. One new position that you'll see is I'm looking to add a full-time traffic engineer. That position would come on line, I believe, 7-1. Andy, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's yes, I'm right. So coming halfway through the year, that position would be to assist with a lot of the things, Ken, you were just mentioning, which is evaluating intersections, kind of taking that stuff off of my plate, working closely with Chip in my office to manage the paving program, data collection, and things of that nature. And then, just in general, we're looking to squeeze all the value out of every dollar that we spend, whether it be paving or any other types of improvements that we're making to the right of way. We're looking at purchasing a couple of pieces of software for next year. One of those will be Synchro, which will allow us to design signals and assess proposed changes to signalized intersections. We're also looking to add a few CAD programs and then add some traffic counters, which we have one right now, and we've been pretty successful using that, gathering data. So we want to add a few of those for next year.
Sorry, just to clarify, are those software, are those under dues and subscriptions or consultant services?
The AutoCAD is under subscription. I believe Synchro is a one-time fee, so that's probably under office equipment. And then, no, I'm sorry, that would be under other material. The software packages would be under other materials and supplies. Office equipment is 3 new computers to run this software.
Great. Did you say you were adding GIS capability, like personnel in your department as well, or just?
No, I mean, we have GIS capability. DPU is pretty advanced with that stuff. What we're trying to do is roll it out and use it in our department.
Okay.
You know, they've got a lot of data already available, but we want to use it to track our data so that when we get a complaint in, you know, we put a dot on a map, and, you know, when we get enough dots in an area, we're able to say, hey, this, you know, maybe we can make a project here, spend some dollars and address a few of the issues more efficiently.
Great. That makes sense. I just feel like I interrupted you towards the end of that. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to your overview?
No, I was going to open it up for questions.
Okay, perfect. I will open it up for other council members first. Councilmember Zalinski.
So Aaron, you're actually not listed here, and I believe that's because you're still considered part-time. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm a part-time temporary employee.
Okay, so are you the only temporary salary on that line?
I'm not. We also have a mechanical electrical, not sure of his exact title, supervisor, Doug Wilkie.
Yeah.
He used to be a full-time employee. He's part-time. He does a lot of, manages a lot of the Siemens contracts, energy savings contracts for our buildings.
Yeah, Doug is awesome. Do you have any interest in being full-time, or is this the range? I mean, I guess I should ask the mayor, right? You know, but you know, I feel like you're doing an incredible job as our city engineer. It's just strange that you're part-time, you know?
Well, I appreciate that. No, I don't have any plans currently of becoming full-time.
Okay. That's the only question I had. Thank you.
Okay. Other council members? Councilmember Steele?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. You're saying you're requesting a new traffic engineer that's going to come on board in July, and we're talking 76,000.
You'll see the subtraction above that of 36. I believe that subtracts the first 6 months salary, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's
salary savings.
Yeah, I think that's what that line item is.
34,000.
So this is over $100,000 for this position.
No,
so I misspoke before that. I misspoke before. The hire date is June 1st. There's $34,613 of salary savings. $32,000 and change is from the traffic engineer position, and then the rest is from a step increase that occurs mid-year 2022. So I apologize for the misspeaking on the date.
Thanks for clarifying that. And then just a quick comment. I found the article today in the paper about Albany's new technology interesting. I wonder if we have any thoughts or in that area?
Yeah, we definitely do. That article actually made its rounds through the office, and I think I even forwarded it on to the mayor and deputy mayor. Yeah, that's exactly. We've been looking into very much the same types of programs. We're currently, actually, I was working with Sean Hooley. We're trying to look into a GeoTab. Is a software platform that would do fleet management. So that's its main purpose, is to ride along in the vehicles. It's a GPS device that monitors, engine hours, mileage. It essentially helps maintain or maximize the fleet, right? So we don't have extra vehicles, or we're making the best out of what we have. One of the kind of side effects of having that device in all these vehicles is we can gather data on our roadways. So what Albany is doing, using, I think they're going with a firm, Roadbotics. We would be able to do something very similar to that using a product like that. So
the other part of that article that was interesting was the change in methods of actually the road surfaces, because we've been touting milling as being the best thing since sliced bread, and I'm just wondering if we want to reconsider that, or what's your thinking on that?
So it's something we've looked into. We tend to have a lot of roads that need more attention than simply a thin overlay, microsurfacing as it's called in the industry. Microsurfacing only is essentially for a roadway that you would otherwise crack seal, or it's a little bit beyond crack sealing in terms of its degradation. And so you do a small overlay, a thin overlay, and you extend the life of the pavement somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 years, maybe a little longer, depending on how well it's done. A lot of our streets are to the point where that's not a viable option. And, in actuality, it's one of the hard facts is that we just don't have the funding to go through and fix all of the roads, next year, right? So we have to make the difficult decisions of which roads get repaired and which ones don't. And that's part of this data acquisition using GIS and other technologies to keep track of what we've done, when it was done, the quality of the road before we milled it, how long the mill and the fill lasted, those types of things.
So that might be something down the road once we've improved our roads our streets to that caliber? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we do have some roads where microsurfacing might be useful. Oakwood potentially could be microsurfaced at a later date. It tends to be more of our heavily trafficked roadways where we want to keep them operating at a higher level because so much traffic is on those roads. We wouldn't do those on smaller side streets because you just don't get the bang for the buck on it.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Mcpherson.
Thank you. Aaron, this is more of a comment than anything else. I just wanted to say I didn't realize that you were just a part-time because I call you numerous amount of times. You always answer your phone. You meet me at different places that I need to go over different areas with. And I appreciate everything that you do for our residents and our citizens of Troy. We want to get our streets fixed, our traffic under control. And you really seem to be, you just surprised me when you said it was part-time because I'm like, man, he's always there. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I look forward to continuing working because we've got a lot to get done on these streets. So thank you.
Thanks, Gabe.
Okay. Any further questions for the engineering department?
Chair?
Yes, Councilmember.
Well, I'll just reiterate what I've been saying about some of the new positions, and I get it, Aaron. I know more work, obviously, and it increases every week. I get it, but saying that, I just have to say with this particular position, and obviously Bill and his department needs some help. But a position here, I don't know if it's warranted. I am keeping an open mind. There are a number of positions in this budget that are proposed, and obviously I plan to look them over very carefully.
Great. Okay. Let's see. I think Ken briefly touched on it, but we didn't close the loop. There is a $10,000 increase in the temporary salaries. Is that you're recognizing you for your good work, or is that Doug, or is that a combination?
That's I'm less part-time than I had planned on.
Yeah, figured. Okay, thank you. And sorry, but thank you. Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Aaron. We will talk more about asphalt technology in the future. But for now, we will move on in the budget process. All right. We going to the general central garage now, Monica, or I can't see who else in the room. How's that, Dave? I can't hear you all in the main conference room yet, but I assume you'll turn me on when you're ready. And it looks like we are moving to central garage. Thank you, Sean.
Please introduce yourself for the record, thanks.
Sean, just introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Hooley. I'm the Central Garage Supervisor.
Page, please.
Page 162, or sorry, just 72. Okay. Sean, your budget is relatively stable. Do you want to give any broad overviews and then talk about the fleet?
I guess, yeah, it is pretty stable. Nothing, no major changes really. Obviously, if you've been following along with the car industry or the supply chain with COVID, things have been really crazy. We've seen some like double and triple price increases for parts. You know, but we've also been able to either postpone or sort of mitigate that through different techniques, you know, just, you know, fixing stuff in-house or, you know, finding cheaper parts. I'll order stuff on Amazon sometimes. You know, the carburetor that costs $100, I can buy for $10 on Amazon. So we try to do things like that when we can. You know, things just cost more. Vehicles cost more. The parts cost more. Every month it seems like a new vendor is coming through and saying, oh, you want to place an order now because next month the price is going up. So, and we try to be cognizant of that. Other than that, things are going pretty well. I have one really good employee who's been out since February with a cancer diagnosis that he's battling, and he hopes to come back soon, and we're eagerly awaiting his return. So, you know, some of my other employees have stepped up to kind of attempt to fill his shoes, and they've been successful. You know, but you know, he was a really good hire when we got him, and he really kind of stepped into that role and was pulling a lot of weight, and having him out has been a struggle, but we're getting through it. So
there is one change to the budget that Andy and I will have to accommodate later that happened after we went to print, is the one assistant, right? Auto mechanic helper.
Yeah.
I always get these names straight. So he actually got, because we've had the auto mechanic out for so long, the assistant mechanic helper actually got his CDL on all of his certifications. So after the budget was printed, he went in for the upgrade, and that will be presented to you guys as far as a budget transfer, I believe, for November to December. So we will have to make a change to this personnel summary sheet on page 75 to accommodate that for next year.
That's just that first auto mechanic helper will become an auto mechanic?
Yeah, so you'll have 2 auto mechanics on the list,
yeah,
rather than just 1.
Yep.
And 1 less auto mechanic helper.
Great.
The number of staff doesn't change, just the one title.
The title. Yep.
Chair.
Yes. Is that Councilmember Ashton?
Monica, you're saying on page 74, you're taking away one of the auto mechanic helpers at the first one at 45,000. You're taking away that salary. Am I understanding that?
Converting it to auto mechanic.
Yeah, I'd like her to
I don't know. Yeah, so one of the auto mechanic helpers was promoted to become an auto mechanic. So in your line, when you read across auto mechanic, will have 2, and then the auto mechanic helper will have 0 in one of those lines. I'm not sure which one it is.
So you don't know which dollar amount you'd be taking out?
Top.
We think it's the top one.
No.
1,000?
Hold on.
Hold on a second, Andy's checking. He's got a personnel file.
It's the third one down. It's the third title down, the second auto mechanic helper, the 46,900 would come out, and you would add an auto mechanic.
So that'll be 0 at the far right.
Okay.
I can send this to the council.
Yep. I just
That's
wanted
fine.
to, I just want to see the dollar amount you were taking out. That's what I was trying to ask. Thank you. You will send that stuff, Andy, correct?
Yes.
Yes, I'm working on it right now.
And to be clear, it'll add somewhere around $10,000 and increase and add the position. So, obviously you'll send
No,
the
it's
exact.
double it. It's going to double it. It's going to go to 110.
No, all right. Never mind.
It's gonna, so I have the change right now. And I'll email that. I can email what the sheet looks like to the council, so you can see it visually. So the 46,900 auto mechanic helper would get changed to auto mechanic, and the salary would be 56,517.
Great. So it adds about 10,000 to the overall line, but increases the responsibilities and skill set of that individual. Great.
Kim, you good with that?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on the budget, or should we move to the fleet? Andy, are you easily able to share that fleet report, or do you want me to do that?
If you're able to share it, that would probably be easier.
Yeah, let me just make sure I have so many of them. Let me make sure I have the right one here. Hopefully my computer doesn't crash. As we get that open, Sean, do you want us to give any overview of the current status of the fleet? And I guess in particular, I know we've talked over the last couple years about concepts about moving to a fleet management strategy whereby we are selling vehicles before we run them into the ground. Has that developed any further, or is that sort of on hold because of the weirdness of the market with COVID?
Well, with fleet management, there's always a lot to unpack with that, right? There's so many, it goes into so many aspects of the city's budget, its city operations. There's a disciplinary piece. There's all sorts of different things that you'd have to kind of get organized. My contribution to it, like you said, over the past couple of years has been kind of analyzing different options for us for fleet management software, different purchasing practices, life cycle management of the vehicles that would not include keeping them for 20 years. I still do a lot of work on that. I've been talking to vendors and researching different things. We talked about leasing. Leasing makes sense for a lot of municipalities for some specific reasons that don't necessarily apply to us. Some different nuances with bonding. A couple of the leasing vendors that I talked to, they made a big sales pitch talking about avoiding the cost of bonding, and I presented that to Andy, and Andy said, yeah, it doesn't really apply to us. I really think we're on the right track. It doesn't always feel that way when, 10 trucks are broken down, or, it's 2 in the morning and you got 3 plow trucks in the shop, trying to get fixed. But we're on the right track. It's gonna be a grind. The past administrations, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, there was a totally different philosophy of fleet management, and it was kind of an absence of any cohesive vision. That's changing, right? The culture's changing a little bit, so I think we're in a good spot. The capital plan as it's written right now, if we were to get all these vehicles, we would potentially, that fleet list that I sent you, we'd potentially get rid of all those vehicles that were highlighted, or re-roll them, like put them in a reserve roll or something like that, which would serve to mitigate a lot of the major repairs that we have to do on stuff, right? Because a major repair, it's kind of important on a frontline piece of equipment, a garbage truck, a plow truck, right? $10,000 is nothing on a big truck. You can spend $10,000 really quick. And as we can move some of those trucks to a reserve roll, we might not have to spend that money, or it can wait till the next budget year, or we can do sort of a temporary repair as opposed to having to do the honest to goodness transmission job or engine job or something like that we would need to if it's a frontline, plow truck or garbage truck or sweeper, So, I think the capital plan as it's written would put us in a much better situation, both operationally for all the other department heads, the guys who are calling me and screaming at me going, hey, I need my truck, and also money-wise, spending money. It's amazing how, you can have a couple of good months, and things are sort of quiet, and then you just get hit with a transmission failure or an engine failure or something like that, and the trajectory that you're on for the year can sort of move parabolically. So I think we're in a good spot. I think there's going to be challenges, and there's going to be defining the correct solution for fleet management is not only is it a moving target, but it's also something that everybody's got to agree on, which is, building consensus is probably the toughest part. There's tons of products out there. There's tons of fleet management and GPS solutions. Aaron and I sat through a presentation for that vendor Geotab, and it offers a lot. There's a lot to like about it and their competitors. There's multiple products out there, as we've seen. I don't know that we would benefit from a product like that right away. If I could just turn that on tomorrow, there would probably be so much noise in the system of, a check engine light on this truck, or a low tire on this truck, or whatever. I don't think it would be helpful right now. I think we need to get that average age of the fleet higher before we do something like that, before we roll something like that out. I'd like to get there. If you ask the question, what does success look like? Success looks like none of our vehicles are less than 5 years old. They're all on a telematics system where, anybody with an admin login can go in and see, hey, I saw a truck driving at night. Why is a city truck driving at night? Or hey, I wonder what routes have been plowed yet. Things like that. To me, that's what success looks like. There's a lot of steps that have to happen between now and that. But I think we're on our way. I think we're on the right path.
Okay, thank you. Did other council members get a chance to look at the fleet report already, or should we pull that up briefly? Maybe we'll talk about it more at a future meeting. I know we're running late tonight, but that overview was helpful. Thank you. And certainly, it looks like we're replacing most of the poor graded trucks in your sheet. least the bigger ones. Although, obviously it looks like there are some more to go in the next few years. And then I just did a quick count. It looks like there's like 30 just plain pickup trucks. That seems like, I guess the first question there is how much customization goes into those trucks? Or is it pretty much just a truck with a toolbox, maybe?
Customization when the truck is purchased, or is that what you're saying, when the truck is new? If it's a plow truck, it depends on what role it has, but if it's a plow truck, it's gonna have a salt spreader, it's gonna have a plow, it's gonna have some emergency lighting, it's gonna have a two-way radio installed, maybe some other accessories. Some trucks have toolboxes, some trucks have racks, things like that. For a plow truck, the upfit cost is about $13,000, $14,000, something like that. So from a bare truck to a truck that's ready to roll and plow snow, 13, 14. That price, as I was saying before, a lot of my vendors have notified me that all those prices are going up, right? So a plow that was $5,000 last year installed might be $6,500 this year. So.
And are those pretty custom to the particular truck? You can't take it off the 5-year-old truck that you're selling and put it on the new truck?
You could.
We're selling 5-year-old trucks.
So you could. There are places that do that. Our trucks get such heavy, sort of brutal, worst case scenario use that you're not really saving much in. There may be some short-term savings in dollars and cents, but in downtime and operational efficiency, you're not saving much, because that truck, the truck and the plow and the spreader are just as beat up. Their condition degrades together as a unit, and if you were to move those items to another truck, you're just transferring one set of problems to a brand new truck. So it's not something I would recommend.
That makes sense. Okay. Do other council members have any questions on the central garage line? Okay, thank you, Sean. Looks like, are we gonna move to code next? Or all right. Hi, Dave. Thanks for being here. Code enforcement is line 119.
If you could
give us
just
an
introduce
overview
yourself for the record. Thank you.
Yep.
My name is David Sheeran. I'm the principal code inspector.
Welcome. I guess you want to give a brief overview of the department, what's been going on this year, any particular challenges or hopes for next year, and then we'll go into the personnel and the rest of the budget.
Sure. This year's been, tough with COVID, but we've tried to make the best of it, getting into people's apartments and doing the inspections. We're as proactive as we can be right now. We have a couple of vacancies that we're looking to fill, and we have a couple of brand new inspectors. So we're still trying to work those guys into an everyday thing, and they're working out pretty well. So hopefully, if we do get the new positions, that we can be more proactive. And then I could set up, I want to set up zones, not so much for housing inspections, because I believe if you have an inspector in the zone that, it kind of, I've been in this building 100 times, I know everything's okay. So they may just, become a little bit, complacent about being there. And it gets a new set of eyes on everything, My belief is what happened in Schenectady is that they had zones, and that gentleman walked into that building so often that he just took for granted things. And you can't take anything for granted in this business, Everything has to be looked at every time we're in the building. But I would like to get them, once they're doing inspections, If they have an inspection in Lansingburg, I'd like to get an inspector down into South Troy. This is your zone, so you take the exteriors. And if you have downtime, let's move down there and get some stuff done. And right now, I'm not able to do that with the inspectors that we have because they're new and because we just don't have the people out on the street like we used to. The guys from the building department have chipped in, and they are helping out. And I think it goes pretty well with the amount of calls that we field on a daily basis. We try to keep everybody happy and get everything done as quickly as possible. Sometimes that doesn't happen, I understand that. But there is a very heavy workload in our office. So we do the best we can, and we'll continue to do the best we can. If it means that I have to go out and do inspections, then that's what I'll do. I don't have a problem with any of that. And, you know, like Bill said too, anytime any of you got, ladies and gentlemen, would like to get in the car and see what we deal with on a daily basis and how we handle things, you're more than welcome to come down and talk with me or get in the car and we'll go around and we'll do a few inspections and I'll show you how things work. But as a whole, I'm trying to implement, you know, and talk to the guys to make the stop. And if the owner's local, let's go knock on his door and try to squash something. I know Ken had a problem up on Alder Avenue, and I hope that's been taken care of. And that's what happened. I went up to his house and I spoke with the owner, and he explained himself. And hopefully we've got that problem taken care of. And it's a daily fight. Every day it's a different situation in a different building, in a different alley. And we do the best we can with what we have. And hopefully if we get the new positions, we can be more proactive.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to respond to Dave. Yeah, Dave, thank you for that. And things are better. The neighbors are telling me that it's at least quieter now, and the garbage issue seems to be mostly resolved. So, we'll see how things go. But thank you. I appreciate you following up on that.
Thank you, Ken.
Can we just get a brief overview of the two additional positions, what you hope for them in particular, as well as the vacancies you have left to fill? And then we'll go through the rest of the budget.
Yeah, we just also lost Adrian Wolf to another department. So I have that position opened up also. We have two code inspector positions and a housing compliance clerk, which hopefully the housing compliance clerk will start trying to implement the ROP program that we want to start, take care of the landlord registry and the vacant building registry, and we can move forward with those.
One of the other things I thought with the housing compliance clerk is also to be able to kind of start diving into the residential occupancy permit, being able to have somebody be able to do the legwork necessary on building the policy, looking at the policy that was previously proposed back in 2014 or 15, what legislative mandates have been done at the state level, that kind of stuff, and start doing the research for that. The other piece of this too is by building the capacity of the department. If the ROP policy takes into effect, it'll also have the officers will be trained and ready to go. Every officer that we bring in takes almost 6 months to get fully trained. So, it's a mid-year startup. If you bring somebody in, it's potentially a June or July or August startup for that officer to actually be able to go and, issue tickets and those kinds of things. So the timing is impeccable to be able to make sure you have time to ramp up a program to be able to staff it. The challenges back in 2014 and maybe 2015 were, if Ken can remember, were the IT challenges and the equipment challenges. We already have that. We have the iPads. We have all of that stuff that the officers are using now. So we're chipping away at some of the early obstacles. Now it's just a matter of getting an implementation program in place to make it real and attainable. That's the other thing. It's a big program. And it takes a lot of effort to move it forward. So we need somebody to do the legwork to build it out.
Yeah, and I would like to say also, we have a new computer system that isn't as user-friendly as the last system, so it took some of the guys a little bit of time to get that going and learn how to do that. We had a few issues with the laptops, with them not hooking up out in the field. Since that time, we're still working on that with Belinda, and hopefully that'll be cleaned up by as soon as possible, hopefully in a few months.
You said obviously you've been bringing some new folks on as well. How has been the experience in terms of getting people up to the point where they're able to use the iPads in the field as the primary mode, or are a lot of folks still working on paper and then bringing into the office? What's the workflow there?
Some people, some guys are using them and some aren't. The connection in some of them just isn't working out. We do have 3 or 4 guys out there that are using them. The building department uses them, and Jimmy Lance is using his. We're trying to work out the kinks with the hotspot or whatever the hookup on the phone is, because it disconnects out there. So we are working with Belinda to get a hard drive, I believe, something like that, a connection that the other departments have, so they'll be more efficient.
Okay. Yeah, I guess if I remember correctly, the dream was that program would sort of allow folks to take pictures right on the iPad in the field and get back to the office and have have it sort of automatically generate the report, the paperwork that they need to do, so they don't have to spend as much time in the office. It sounds like we're not quite there yet, but moving in that direction still. Is that the goal?
We're trying the best we can. Yes, that is the goal, to be able to print. When we went through this system, we were told that you'll be able to do your inspection and just hit print, and it would print to a printer in the office, and then the town clerk could just stuff the envelopes and get them in the mail that day. That hasn't been the case yet, but we are working on it. So
all your inspectors are having to come back to the office and manually print out their own reports. That's not an automated system yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, that seems like definitely obviously a high priority in terms of.
In a perfect world. In a perfect world, we'd love to see that happen. It would make our job a lot easier, and we'd be a lot more efficient. Years ago when I started, we had a girl in the office, and that's all she did, type the notices.
So that goes to my other question.
We're a little bit more efficient than that.
We've talked about that over the years too. Obviously, it sounds like the plan is not to have that housing compliance clerk be doing that kind of work. Even with the current system, halfway transition with folks working on paper, bringing it in, it seems like there could be at least some bridging happening if there was someone in the office still handling the sending out of violations or follow-up notices, things like that. How much of that has to be done by the particular officers, and how much of it?
Every bit of it has to be done. They have to do.
Right. Does any of it legally have to be done by them, or if we had someone that was a clerk in the office, how much of that could they take on and get your folks back out in the field faster?
They could take on a majority of it, a lot of it. Okay. We have people in the office, myself, Jimmy Lance, that if a backup occurs, if we get backed up, we'll pull in and we'll pitch in and we'll help type the notices and get the notices out.
Yeah. I guess, and I'm just thinking in terms of bang for your buck here, it seems like there's a lot that if we can free up an extra 30% or even 10% of all these guys' times by having someone in the office, I think that would go a long way.
Yeah, and they would be able to spend more time on the street.
Chair?
Yes, Council President Mantello.
Yep. Thanks, Dave. And clarification, you said guys and
gals.
women.
Guys and women, yes.
And women.
Right now, I only have guys, so that's why I apologize for
You
that.
didn't say guys, actually, Councilmember Cummings did, so I had to give it a little dig. You know what, Dave, my concern with the 2 new ads, and believe me, I get the bigger picture. We need, obviously, you know, code inspectors out there, but I'm not sure if adding staff, and I've said this in pretty much every committee meeting, is always the answer. And so last year, the housing code technician was vacant, and it's been vacant all this year, but yet we want a housing compliance clerk. You know, honestly, hold on, this is just me. I'm one vote, I'm one person, but I'm just saying, I'd rather hold off on the 2 new positions. And now you said Adrian's gone. So basically you're looking to add an assistant code inspector, a housing compliance clerk, but you have the housing code technician vacant, and you had to have a code inspector vacant on the last vacancy list. And I guess, so which position is Adrian, Dave?
Adrian was a code inspector.
Okay, so is there another code inspector vacant in addition to the one, the second? So you have 2 there. Is there only 1 vacant, and is that Adrian? Only because on the vacancy list that's on, but is Adrian new? So is there another?
I believe we're just looking for 2 assistant code inspectors and to fill Adrian's code inspector position. And the code, and the housing compliance clerk.
Okay, and you have a housing code technician that hasn't been filled last year, and our last vacancy list in October, it wasn't filled all year.
That's correct. We were waiting for the list to come out.
Okay, I'm just going to recommend, as I did in a couple other committee meetings, before hiring, we need to fill some positions, maybe, you know, regroup the department a bit. And I know you have your hands full, Dave. I'm not minimizing that whatsoever. But those are just my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the code department? Let's see. Doesn't look like there's any other major changes to the budget, unless I'm missing anything. I guess, Dave, did you want to address at all the addition of positions? You know, obviously it has been hard to
I'm just trying to put more people. I'm just trying to put more feet on the street, you know, to cover everything. We've got graffiti problems. We've got, it's hard to be proactive when you've got 1 or 2 inspections every single hour, you know? So, my thought is the more people we get on the street, the more effective we can be.
Okay. Any other questions?
Chair, I do.
Yes,
Sorry.
Councilmember Ash Mcpherson.
Dave, do we inspect houses for new tenants for new that are moving?
That's their residential. Sorry,
Say that again? Sorry?
No, we don't. We do not inspect when a landlord moves in a different tenant. We would, right now, I don't know what the plan is. Cohoes implements it. Cohoes has 1 high school, 1 middle school, and that's how they keep track of it when they get a new student. The paperwork goes to the city. In the city of Troy, there's an awful lot of schools.
That's the ROP program.
That's the ROP program.
And we don't have anything like that, but don't we have to send our code in to inspect for Section 8 apartments?
Yeah, we do DSS inspections.
Right,
We
only
do-
if only if they're receiving social services for the first month or whatever. If they're just, Section 8, straight Section 8, we don't inspect. That's Troy Housing Authority, that goes to the Housing Authority.
So we don't go in on any of these for DSS to inspect the apartments for these guys. That's Troy Housing, you're saying?
No, so we do social services, but Section 8 is a Troy Housing program. That's a rent subsidized,
Okay.
not fully paid.
Is when we go in and we're doing those inspections on those apartments, how many a month or a day? I mean, how much time does that take for one of our
To do an
inspectors?
inspection correctly,
Yeah.
about 30 minutes, about 30 to 40 minutes to go through.
And so we're down 3 positions right now in code is what you're saying. Two assistant code inspectors and one code inspector. And we have
We're down
one
2.
housing.
We're down 2. We just have a vacancy in the city, or in the
In the
code
housing.
inspector, we're 3 and left.
Okay.
So we're down. We used to have 4 housing inspectors. We only have 2.
You only have 2. Okay. I just want to make sure I was clear on what you said that. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Dave. Anything else
Thank
you
you
wanted to
very
say
much.
before you leave, or thanks again?
No, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Now we're down to the core DPW departments. Is there any other staff coming? Oh, it looks like there is. Okay.
Page 129.
129, right? You just get me going.
Okay.
Let the toes be themselves.
Page 129,
Hi,
street
guys.
maintenance. Welcome. Please state your names for the record.
Hi, guys. I'm Joe DiNardo, Supervisor of DPW.
Joe Martin, Foreman, Streets.
Thanks for being here. I'm going to start with a recap of the year. How's it been? Any challenges you've seen or hopes for the next year? And then we'll move into the budget.
I think we've done a pretty decent job this year with what we have. We try to keep up with everything that comes our way. We have a couple positions open that we're hoping to fill. Our seasonal employees, the hiring seasonal employees really helped us out this year. I think we have more this year, right, than last year? But
Last year was a challenge.
last year was a tough season. So we're just getting ready for snow to come, that's all.
Okay. Starting with the personnel, it looks like, are all the MEO heavies filled and it's the lights that you're having a hard time filling? Looks like here.
Yes. The MEO heavies are all filled. The lights, we have, the MEO lights, we have one that is, we're waiting on, and another laborer is taking his road test Thursday, so we might be filling them 2 up. The jobs that we already have, we already have vacant.
Okay, so there's 3 that are zeroed out in the budget here, but there's only 2 current vacancies. Is that correct?
There's 2 current vacancies.
3. Currently in streets, there are 2 vacant labor positions and 3 vacant MEO light positions.
Okay. and then we're
With
adding.
With these positions comes a process, and we've been going through the process with some different individuals to get these positions filled. Either something happened along the line and brings us back to the beginning again. So therefore, it's not like we are not trying to get them filled. We are just running into some dead ends as the process goes.
The DOT clearinghouse has been a real challenge, and they started that last year. It's not like years past where we can just hire off the street. Now they have to go through a clearinghouse process, and it takes anywhere between 30 to 60 days before you know if you can even hire them.
Currently, we have two in-house that are they're attempting to make the transition to the MEO light position, and we actually have we interviewed an individual for the third MEO light position that we're actually waiting to go through the clearinghouse process.
Is that like a background check process, or what is that clearinghouse? Can you talk a little more about that?
That's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's exactly what it is, a background check.
So basically, if you come into some trouble in New York State and you try to go to California to get a position that requires a CDL, it'll show up, or vice versa.
Understood. Okay. And overall, it looks like we're adding one labor and one MEO light. Can you speak to the need there? Is the idea that those are positions that just rotate so frequently that we'd rather have more in the budget and assume one or two will always be vacant, or what's the idea behind these added positions?
We need the positions. We need more help with equipment operating, so we can get more done, obviously. And the labor position, that'd be, we have seasonal employees that are doing a decent job that actually should be hired eventually. So.
Joe, talk about the north-south option, the concept you were thinking about by adding the additional staff. Remember we talked about that, a north team and a south team? Street cleaning? No, for the, not brooms, but what you're doing, like cleanup clout, like the pothole clout. Oh. We're doing north and a south team. Yes.
Split two teams. Oh, yeah. We could, with the more laborers and the more MEO lights, we'd also put a crew south and a crew north on the same day. Potholes, mowing, whatever, what need be.
This year, what we did is we basically alternated a week in one location, we'll say south, and the next week we went north, and then we went to the east side, or vice versa. We at least try to keep a presence in all parts of the city with potholes. This way it would enable us to possibly have two.
It's a juggling act right now. I mean, you get one guy that calls in sick, you're putting something down. Whether it's a broom, a boom truck, something's going down.
Yeah. Okay. When was the last time you were at full staff?
Before COVID?
No,
even way before that. Yeah. I don't think since you guys have been in office, I don't believe, right?
You mean vacant or at full capacity as far as big positions?
I don't.
They cut positions.
Yeah, we lost positions years ago.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as with many city departments, we're trying to slowly build back up. And obviously there is an endless punch list. But it seems like, I guess I'm wondering, this is more a question for Andy, is there anything to do with the budget around, budgeting in a little bit of increased salary savings just because we've seen such a trend of not ever having it fully staffed?
We've never budgeted for anticipated vacancies because, I mean, certainly there's a trend, right, in this department that they have vacancies, but what we've always done is budgeted the full salary for the year, and then, we do salary savings for step increases and then deferred hiring some new positions, but it's never been considered to do salary savings for anticipated vacancies.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at with this is, with a department like this where we want to have 2 full crews, north and south, but, someone drops off, someone gets another job. Now you can't have that second crew anymore. If you could budget to know you're going to have some vacancy and then use that salary savings to add a position so that when you're down 4, you're still at least a little closer to the number of people you actually need, rather than always being, having 4 less people than you really need. Are we getting towards that just by adding positions here, or is there something more we could do to get towards that goal of, making sure we have the people out there, even if people are rotating through?
Our goal is to get everything done every day, every job that we have coming to us. So, I mean, I don't know, other than that.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess, Andy, if we were to take a trend and say, based on the trend in the last several years, we can assume we're going to have at least $80,000 in salary savings. It's probably more than that. Can that pay for adding in another laborer so that at least, as the vacancies go in and out, we have the folks to fill in?
So this is just strictly a financial answer and a civil service answer. If you add positions, if you do that, Joe can go hire all those positions tomorrow. He can hire them January 1 and say there's a year where he's fully staffed. And then he's going to run over budget, however much the city assume that he would have salary savings for vacant positions. That's the risk that the city runs by doing that. And I understand the trend, but if you do that and you add, say, 2 more laborers to the position, to the department, in January, the Civil Service Commission will approve the positions, and they can fill them immediately. And if they're able to stay fully staffed, then a budget transfer is going to be needed during the year. That's the risk of doing it.
Right. But I mean,
I don't know how you quantify it if in year 1 you have 2 vacancies, in year 2 you have 3. If it's fluctuating as a wave, how do you assume that? Would be my question.
I mean, we have 7 MEO lights in this budget, and 3 are filled right now. Obviously, that's a broader trend.
3 are vacant.
3 are vacant.
Yeah, and 3 are filled, and then we're adding 1. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we have 3 right now.
We have 3 right now. We have 3 vacant, and we're adding 1.
I'll cost out any amendment that the city council wants to propose.
Okay.
I just don't know what base is the trend to come up with that.
I mean, could you do a little analysis of the last 10 years? How much?
We can look at it. Going back 10 years is going to take a lot of staff time to go through. We are on a paper system.
5 years is fine. Whatever it is, we're just looking at vacancy over time. Because you're right. Obviously, the risk is we end up with a couple more staff than we had anticipated. Hopefully, that reduces over time if it happens. But the risk, if we don't, is that we continuously run on short staff, and that hurts everybody.
So you would like an analysis of the last 5 to 10 years of vacancies in the streets department?
Essentially of salary savings vacancy. I guess it's months vacant by title each year.
So
I guess.
So 5 to 10 years by month of the vacancies in the streets department and then a calculation of by month the amount of salary savings that were achieved. I mean, that is, we can do it. That's a significant amount of work. I just want to caution you, and there is no guarantee that that's going to be accurate. Because we have to go back 10 years of contracts to pull. I mean, we'll do it. It's just going to take time to calculate that.
Okay.
So the analysis of vacancies by month in streets, by title, and then the salary savings that were achieved.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a way for you to get me
there also has to be consideration for accrual payouts when employees left as well. Okay.
You know, if there's a way to shortcut an answer, if that's going to take away too much of your staff time, obviously your department's tight. So if there's a way to shortcut an answer by, you know, giving me the actual budgetary savings over the last 5 years, just, you know, the audited financial savings over the last 5 years to start this discussion in this budget line, that would be a decent place to start. You know, obviously, if we're going to end up making changes to the budget, we're going to want to get more detailed, but if we could start with just the audited financial results for the last few years on this line.
I'll see what we can put together.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Ash Mcpherson.
Hi, guys. How are you? Can you tell me what an MEO light is? Can't hear you.
Light equipment operator.
What equipment are they running?
Dump trucks. Yeah, dump trucks, claw trucks.
And we have vacant already.
We have vacancies. Oh, yes, we have vacancies.
Three.
Which we explained earlier. It's due to publishers, or it's due to clearinghouse.
Publishers
Publishers clearinghouse.
What?
I'm here for your entertainment.
It would be due to that too if they won.
Thanks, Joe. Got it. Anyhow.
Cardboard sign and all that too?
Kim, what was your question?
My question was, you have 3 MEO light vacancies, correct?
Yes.
So do we have a list that we can hire off of for those 3 positions?
We have one that is going through the clearinghouse right now. We have one that is taking a road test Thursday. That's 2. And the third,
is completing his education requirement?
Yes. Yes, yes.
So those positions are going to be filled shortly.
Yeah, they're in the process.
Hopefully, yes, and 2 of which are in-house.
Like Joey said, it takes a couple months to fill them.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's where we were going with it. And I thought that's what you
Yeah.
said, and I just clarify that. Thank you.
We had 2 that already went through the process, and at the end, we couldn't hire. Because of other things that came up on their report and.
Their back check. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
It just takes away from the time that.
So that was, 2 months wasted on nothing.
Right, 'cause you can't go that route first. I get it. Thank you.
Any other questions from other council members?
No, we're good.
You've got 45 in temporary salaries. That was budgeted this year as well. It wasn't in 2020. What are those again?
That's right. That's right.
How's that been working this year?
Seasonal employees.
What was this question?
The answer was seasonal employees.
Great.
No benefits.
Yes. And that program is that in the pretty much summer program?
No, it's for as long as we need them.
Okay.
Actually, our seasons are 4 seasons.
We broke it down this year. We pretty much hired the majority of them towards the end of the year for heavy, leave pickup
getting ready for winter material.
And
So
I think
it was
the deputy
definitely
mayor
changed
talked
around.
about hopes for that position as sort of an on-ramp into the labor position. Is that working at all? Is that
Yes.
something you're able to utilize? You're able to cherry pick folks out of
we've
that
done-
position? And
That's how we've hired full-time employees in the past.
Yep.
And that's how we weed them out, figure out who can, do the work and.
That helps the vetting process.
Yes.
That's what we're in the process of doing right now for the two that are open.
how many people total do you end up going through with that $45,000?
5.
Okay.
This year, 5. It really depends on what we do for season and what part of the season.
Sure.
When we bring them in.
Okay. You've got $15,000 in small tools and equipment. That's new.
Yes.
Is that a
Yes.
particular piece of equipment?
No, it's,
Hand tools.
yeah, that's, like
Lawnmowers.
mowers, weed whackers,
Chainsaws.
yeah, stuff of that nature.
Okay. That's just up significant. So previous years it was 400 to 2,000. Is that just budgetary moving those things, or are we upgrading our supplies?
We upgraded, and also supply, the cost of everything is going up also.
Yep. And then gas and oil expenses are also budgeted to go up significantly. Is that based on a trend of actual this year, or is that just gas prices in general are going up?
That's kind of what
We this in 2021, there was finally an electronic fuel system implemented.
Right.
Similar to what's up at DPU. So what we're able to get now is more accurate reflections of how much gas is being used by each department.
Per department.
So there's fluctuations throughout OGS budget accounts. And then, but I mean, obviously there's also an adjustment for gasoline costs as well. So it's those two factors meeting together.
Okay. Consultant services sort of flipped, it looks like. It was the two consultant services lines here on the bottom of 129.
First one's the tree service.
Yeah, the first one is the tree service. The 409 line, right?
Yep, the plain 409 one, yes.
Yes. First
that
was
went up?
tree service. Yeah.
And then the one below it, the 409-100 went down. What was that one?
That's like maintenance from Mount Ida Cemetery.
Yeah, that's the two
Riverfront
cemeteries.
Park.
Two cemeteries in Chamberlain Park.
Columbus Square.
All the maintenance of them. Mowing
Okay.
and maintenance of them.
Why is that down from the 2021 budget? Did you get other bids in?
Those accounts should be flip-flopped. 409 should be 65,000. 409-100 should be 100,000.
Okay, so that's just a typo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's all pretty consistent to previous years. Although I guess that means we're budgeting an added $18,000 for the cemeteries and all that. Are we adding the amount of work, or just expecting that the cost is going to go up?
I would imagine the costs.
That's for the additional landscaping that we put in for them to maintain that, the parking lots, the Columbus Square, and then the 4th and Ferry parking lot, Columbus Square, and then also
Riverfront North.
Riverfront North.
So we're adding the size. We're adding to the size of that contract. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you both. We'll move on to snow removal. Thanks. So snow removal is on page 134. Looks like the only change is that you're not buying new office equipment this year.
Buying the what? Office equipment. Oh.
That you did that last year. Anything to note on that? I mean, this seems like this is just a placeholder budget, basically, right?
Yeah.
We'll see what the weather holds. Okay, thanks again.
It's the first alter on today.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on streets or snow, or shall we move on? Anyone else coming in? Any other? Yep.
Parks is coming in, but can I ask a quick question to the council? I know earlier we had a little bit of an email issue with an invite for the Uniting Line. Did anybody else have issues getting stuff from a newsletter, emails from newsletter? If so, I want to make sure that Quinn's checking that out, because it could have been a transition, because we have the all city council members at Troy NY. It goes to that, and some of you didn't get it when it might have gone to the other email. Kim, I know you were one. Did anybody else have any issues with getting any announcements John put out last week?
But I've gotten other all council emails. I just didn't get any. I'm assuming this is the only one I don't know for sure if there's other things I've missed.
Yeah, obviously I can't speak to what I've missed, but I have been getting John's announcements.
Okay.
I check my city email directly. I know some people have it forwarded to their personal emails, so that might be part of the problem. I will say, I have gotten continued complaints from constituents who say, I emailed you and I got a message saying message couldn't be delivered, it bounced. So I think our filter is still maybe a little too aggressive with filtering out people. Obviously it's a balance because we also get a lot of spam, but
Yep. Yeah, no, the Barracuda is very aggressive. I was emailing one person one day, and then the next day they were blocked.
Yeah.
I don't know what
It's not a good look when someone gets a message telling them that they're blocked when I haven't blocked them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got it. So I just want to make sure, because I know it was an issue before we get too far in, but we can run the parks now. Kevin's here.
Right.
And I'll just say on the Barracuda, by the way, for some reason, the EAP emails, the Employee Assistance Program, are always getting quarantined. And I keep telling the Barracuda thing, this is not spam, this is legitimate, and it doesn't seem to train it. It keeps marking it as spam. I don't know.
I will just say, Anasha, any email that I've heard about that has been blocked, when I've checked it, the person has mistyped the email address of the council member. So if it is addressed to @troyny.gov, but the individual mailbox is mistyped, they will get a message saying they're blocked. If they actually read further in the message, it tells them why it's blocked, and it will say why it's blocked. And if it's a matter of they've mistyped the address, it'll say, Anasha Cummings with 1 M is not found or something. So they should actually look at the entire message. They can always screenshot it and send it to me, and I can follow up.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. Okay, Kevin Graber, welcome. Thanks for being here. Mara, do you need him to state his name for the record? Or does me saying it count?
I think you saying it counts. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, Kevin. And we will start in on the Recreation Administration line on 137. Kevin, this is you. Not a lot to talk about here. can't hear Andy, you. This vehicle expense is the same thing we just talked about. Oh, he's not here, but yeah, nice.
I don't know what he said. Anashi, we missed all that. We couldn't hear anything.
Breaking up.
Oh, sorry. Welcome. Thanks for being here. We'll start on 137, 138, which is just you, the recreation supervisor. I don't think there's anything to highlight here. There's an addition of your gas and oil expenses, but I assume that's just the line iteming we just talked about. Is there anything else you want to note here? Or any questions council members have? Otherwise, we'll move on to parks, which is on 141. And Kevin, if you want to just give us an overview of, again, sort of how your year's been, hopes and dreams for the next year, and then we'll go jump into the budget itself.
It's been pretty good. We've opened up Geneva Pompey Park on 7th Ave. We actually got the fountain operational at the Nick, so that's working now after a few years of it not. That's about it, really. What? Oh, and we got another 9 holes of disc golf.
Yes,
on the other
yes,
side
you did.
of
That was beautiful.
Prospect Park.
Let's see. Salaries. Obviously, we're moving the 2 youth specialists into their own department. But other than that,
Anasha, you're breaking up again.
well, maybe I'll just let you guys lead from over there with the salaries.
That was totally mumbled.
I'm just trying to pass the torch since I can't talk apparently. If you can talk about the salaries line.
Okay, go ahead.
Me?
Yes.
Permanent salaries, they've gone up. We're trying to add a recreation maintenance worker and an additional laborer.
2 vacancies.
What 2 vacancies?
You have a recreation attendant that's vacant and a youth services specialist.
We do have a recreation attendant that's vacant and a youth service specialist.
The recreation attendant is brand new though.
Yes.
Right, just vacant, like
Just
within
vacant.
the past couple days. And
Monday.
then the youth specialist is the one that we talked about before, where we will look to hire that at the turn of the year.
So just to note one thing, we did move the 2 youth services specialists out of parks and put them in the youth bureau just to better align to departments and functions in the city. And then there's the 2 new positions that Kevin just referenced.
So Andy, I'm still seeing a overall plus of 2. Are we adding 4
Right, and
positions
then-
and subtracting 2?
No, there's 2 new positions, the labor and so there's a new position of a laborer and a new position of a recreation maintenance worker 2. Then the 2 youth services specialists moved from 7110 to 7310. And then the 2 employees that were in 7140 ice rinks were moved to park 7110, which is a laborer and a recreation attendant.
Understood. That makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
You are also have $10,000 in small tools and equipment. Is this just a new line, Andy, or it seems like everyone's got
So what we,
bumps on the.
There's a citywide, a lot of departments use other materials and supplies for all of their spending, and it's an attempt to better reflect budgetarily a differentiation between tools and what's used on a daily basis to maintain, and then supplies needed to supplement the work that they're being done.
Understood. That makes sense.
So, and then, you know, there was also, if you look back last year, we had budgeted $10,000 in 200 for equipment and capital outlay. It's not, those are fixed asset purchases. You know, usually the threshold at the very, very low end for fixed asset recognition would be one singular item costing $10,000. So it's also to better reflect the fixed asset purchases that go on throughout the year.
Okay. That makes sense. So that keeps that equipment and capital line cleaner, and the other materials and supplies. It does seem like other materials and supplies hasn't been going down proportionally. I assume that's just because of the increases in supply costs, or did you do analysis on that particularly?
We look back at historical spending in the 303. It was a combination of 303, you know, looking at what historical spending was, and then also the changes from 200, the 200 accounts down to 302. So it was a mixture of both throughout all the departments.
Okay.
Sorry.
What is the shift differential?
If we have somebody working past our normal hours, they're entitled to a differential in pay.
Oh yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Any other questions on the Parks Department?
Chair,
Yes. Councilmember Mcpherson.
I think this question is for Andy. The 2 youth service specialists, you're taking them out of parks and you're putting them into their own line now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we had one that was a 41,000 salary and not anything for the other because we still haven't hired that position.
Correct.
So my question is, in the youth service, where you set up the new lines, you have them both starting at the same rate. You wouldn't go back to the 41,000, you're just gonna give the contractual to somebody that hasn't started, you're just gonna bump it up?
I can check that number that's in the budget.
Okay. That's my first question. So would that be a $41,000 savings under parks because you've taken out the youth service?
That savings was already factored by taking the split out. It's still under the general services department, it's just in a different accounting line, budget line.
So then, are you asking about page 143?
Yeah.
So the current salary that you're seeing on that page, and all personnel pages, is what the employee was making as of October 8th.
Correct.
So it was reflective of current vacancies as of that date, and reflective of contracts that were approved as of that date.
So that's why the person that wasn't hired will now be hired at a higher rate, right?
We didn't hear your question.
The person now, because we don't have the other youth coordinator
We're
position.
not hearing you.
I can hear you, Kim. I don't know if it's something on their end.
Yeah, never mind. I think they find humor on my end of asking questions. I'm not gonna ask any more questions.
Okay. Can you all hear me in the room? Okay.
Can somebody try talking again? We're trying to make sure it's not our connection.
Yeah, can you hear us now, or
Can you hear us?
we can hear
Ken
you?
or Sue, Eileen, can you hear us clearly?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay.
Okay.
Can they hear each other? Can you guys hear each other?
Yeah, we can hear each other and you. Does anyone else have any questions about the Parks Department?
Probably.
Let me log out 1 second.
Yeah, we're gonna log out and.
Okay.
Gosh, they can't hear us.
They can't hear us.
Or we can't hear them. I don't know. They can't hear us and we can hear them. I don't know. Technology.
They'll be back. I guess while we're at it, does anyone know where the council president went to?
She probably got kicked out. I got booted out of here twice tonight, and one
No,
time
because she'd text me and let me know if she got kicked out. But she's ex officio. She doesn't have to be on. And I don't really have to be here either. So
Yeah,
get out of here.
We'd miss you, Ken, if you weren't.
Oh, yes. Find some other topic I can go off on.
Please don't.
Actually, our next topic is ice rinks, and that's a big one for me.
Oh, no, Ken, please. Please, I'm so hungry. Only kidding.
Eileen is saying something, but I can't read her lips. Oh, she wasn't talking to us. Ah. Well, if they don't come back, do we adjourn, Anasha?
They say they're connecting.
We're back. Can you hear us?
We can. Welcome back. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
That's even better than us being able to hear you. Okay. Great. Welcome back. Any other questions from council members about the Parks Department?
Ken's question. Ken, did you understand what I was saying about how we're budgeting the current salary?
And I'm done asking questions because I don't appreciate these other council members sitting there laughing.
Okay. Then we will move on to ice rink. Unless y'all have anything else you wanted to add on parks? Okay, ice rink. Should this still be plural?
Should be nothing.
Is zero singular or plural?
Yeah, there's really not, what page is it?
146.
Yeah, there shouldn't really be anything in there. We zeroed out the labor and the recreation attendant that was there, so it's not,
Okay, I get it. Good.
there's facilities, but that's about it.
All right. Ken, did you want to ask any questions about anything, or should we move on?
Yeah, I guess so. The NIC, as we know, is going to be used for the fire wolves. Kevin, is the NIC still going to be in a place where if we need to use it as an ice rink again, that we can, obviously with repairs, but is it, we're not doing something to it that's going to render it where it will never be able to be used as a rink. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So if the firewolves don't work out, or if we find a way to do both, maybe half the year have lacrosse, half the year, ice hockey, it's a possibility. Of course, we'd still have to repair the rink.
Yeah, that's an over $1 million investment, just to keep that, it's beyond a repair.
Well, yeah, everything's repairable. It just depends on the money.
It would be a new
So that,
system, right, not a repair to the existing, that's all.
so that leaves us with, of course, RPI, which is RPI, and then Freer Park, which is Troy Youth. Now, we still own Freer Park, right?
We don't own, oh no, sorry, yes. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, so the Freer Park Arena we own, but we're renting that to Troy Albany. Where's the revenue line for that? Can we just take a quick peek at it?
7, it's on page,
Right, they aren't paying any rent right now because they're doing all of the infrastructure improvements to the facility. They just invested about $700,000 or $800,000 into the ice rink. Or more.
Right. So which we appreciate.
That's the contract that was passed. Yeah, that was the contract that was passed, 2018?
it was passed
2019?
in August of 2019.
19.
Okay, yeah, so I wasn't on my second stint on the council yet, so I wasn't aware of that. But so we're basically, the contract now is that there's no revenue from Troy Albany?
For right now, it ramps up, after they make their investment and able to recoup some of their dollars back.
Okay. Okay.
But essentially, the capital improvement that we would need to make in the NIC, they presented a plan to make the investment on their own behalf for an extension of the lease.
Okay. Which is awesome. I mean, we're obviously not great at maintaining, we're not great at maintaining a bunch of things. Cities sometimes are not supposed to be doing this stuff, but with our rinks, clearly, it's tough. These things are very expensive to run. So I'm actually happy that we've got Troy Albany doing that, and I think it's a reasonable arrangement. But of course, we'll revisit it. Monica, how long does that contract last until?
I'd actually have to take a look, because I know that this last investment was not a planned investment, and they're actually potentially looking to extend the lease because the redo of the floor, they literally just redid the floor. Their first initial investment was the mechanical system to create the ice and all of that part, and then they just replaced the floor. They took the whole old floor out and put brand new floor in.
And piping.
And piping, they did the whole thing. So that was an expense that they didn't anticipate early on, but they took it on themselves. So I haven't come to terms with her yet because we're doing everything else now, but that's waiting in the wings.
And last question, have you done any type of analysis on whether it would be beneficial to the city to just outright sell the rink and relinquish it as our property?
We'd have to get permission from New York State in order to do that because it's considered parkland.
The term of the lease is through August 2029.
Okay.
It was approved on September 5th, 2019.
Okay, so it's a 10-year contract. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions about the ice rink? That's zeroed out. Otherwise, we'll move on to Youth Bureau. We've talked about this already, but certainly I'd like an update on how it's gone in the first year and what we hope for next year.
Okay. So the Youth Bureau.
Page 153.
Yep, so the Youth Bureau, we've done all of our normal stuff with the 409 line. This is the youth group. This is paying for the pool. This is our volunteer recreational organizations of Troy. This is the Spring Little League, Lansingburg Royals, Pop Warner. We fund them. There's $75,000 worth of after school programming that gets sent out to CYO boys in the 2 Boys and Girls Clubs. There is also summer programming scheduled in that. And then what we also are planning for next year as well is to look at the potential, Ken, similar to our conversation earlier this morning, the potential to do field trips and outings for the city of Troy as a whole, for families of the city, being able to partner with outside agencies and locations to be able to offer up some youth programming that will complement the youth programming that we already have in place in the city. We're not looking to replicate summer camp programming or anything like that, or after-school programming, because we have enough organizations that do that really well. And what Megan has spent a lot of her time doing is meeting with those organizations to talk to them, introduce herself, be able to see what their offerings are and how she can work with them and or find some partnerships. And that's including some organizations outside of Troy as well. She met with a horse farm to do horseback riding for the city of Troy residents. She met with the Rensselaer Plateau, Dyken Pond, and Grafton Park to actually do like a nature bus and an educational series with them. So those are things that we're putting in place for next year. One of the other things we are looking to do is potentially expand the volunteer recreational youth funding. We're actually able, we used to only give them $999, and we're actually up to $2,500 a year for those agencies, which, as you know, all of our youth agencies this year took a big hit this past year and this year because of COVID, loss of sponsorships. We just wanted to make sure that we were able to keep those teams intact. Youth sports teams are integral in a city or a town to make sure that our youth are actively engaged. And then I think the other piece is just having that second youth specialist come on board, to handle additional programming throughout the city. But the biggest thing for me is making sure that we're forming those partnerships and alliances with organizations that are already in place, and how do we better our relationship with all of them and help promote their offerings, as well as, again, like I said, augment what they've been doing.
Thank you.
Yep. We did have some savings this year because the pool wasn't open very much. Because it rained all the time.
Okay. It's getting late. Any other questions about the Youth Bureau? Thank you for the update and reorganization. It looks like we're, yeah, okay. Should we cover the marina next? On page 135, 136.
Yep.
Page 135 is the marina.
We'll do the marina and then we'll do facilities.
Sounds good.
Marina.
Changed which
So
consultant?
the cost for the marina were based off of budget documents that were sent to us by Oasis. I mean, they have the expertise. So it's broken down into two different categories, as you can see. 303 represents the cost of goods sold for the fuel sales as are anticipated in the 2022 fiscal year. And 409 is the remainder of the expenses, which includes the installation and removal of the docks on an annual basis.
Okay.
The 409 is the all-in cost for the operations by Oasis. So it includes their staff and everything else that is provided along with their management fee.
Just looking at the revenue, it looks like docking charges revenue is 145. Obviously, we're still ramping up, but is there hope that as we get more real numbers in those budget lines, we'll start to meet expenses with those revenues?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal, right? It's a business. We're gonna try to run it as such. We don't wanna lose money on the marina. I think the biggest thing is making sure that, you know, that we're known, like we were way back in the day, as the stopping point, you know, especially now with the new facility. It'll take some time for that word to get out to the boaters and get around. We were hindered this year because we got a late start. We didn't start till really July. And we had to build the systems and put the systems in place. But we were still hindered by, all of the rain and the fact that the canals were closed a lot, but also the border. You know what I mean? Like, the border didn't open up until later on, so we didn't really necessarily get all of the traffic, the boat traffic we normally would. So we're confident that working with Oasis, they'll be able to get the word up throughout the East Coast. I will tell you that we all see the big cruise lines that sit. You'll see during the month of October, we usually see a little bit of a spike in increase because of docking fees because of them. Blount, the other ship that's a little bit smaller, they actually did not survive COVID. So hopeful that maybe we'll be able to get attract some others around this way, but that'll take some time to recruit maybe. But
okay. The increase in the, I guess, first you shifted from the /353 line, closed that out and just moved it into 409 overall, but then it went up some. Is that just because of the longer year, or is there an actual increase in the cost as well?
So it is a reclass of, the switch was just those project accounts, it's just a personal preference that I don't like them in the general fund unless if they're absolutely needed. The cost increase is, they're gonna, because of not opening until midsummer, July.
Right.
The longer time. We re-reviewed everything from Oasis and relied on what they were providing us.
Okay. Any other questions about the marina? Okay. Facilities on page 67. Yeah.
thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
So facility, Sean Kiley, God love him, is getting married, so he was not able to be here tonight. He got married over the weekend. We did not, nobody knew. So we wish him the best on his honeymoon. So Chuck is gonna cover them, and then we can, I will tell you just right out of the gate, if there is one department that needs an additional staff member, it is the facilities department. Between what they do for the police department, the fire department, every other place that we have functioning, plus all the vacant buildings and everything else we do, they need some help, so.
Quite honestly, in a nutshell, if it needs to be built, they build it. If it needs to be fixed, they fix it. If it needs to be cleaned, they clean it. Any city-owned property, it could be 3 o'clock in the morning, they're up boarding up houses. So they really are spread thin. They honestly, they work a lot. So I'm just going to actually go right into the permanent salaries line, which is a new building maintenance mechanic with a hire date of 4/1/22. Two of our employees, one of which, including Sean, is probably within one hand of years left of employment. So those guys have a lot of knowledge of what goes on in the city and how it functions and what needs to be done with the properties that the city owns. So one of the ideas was basically to start to get somebody in to actually shadow these two to start getting the knowledge needed for the future. The 302 line is the small tools and equipment. That is obviously going under the new building that traffic will be having. That's one of the things we're looking to do is revamp all the tools, workbenches, etc. that they need. to do their day-to-day operations. Is there any other budget lines that you have any questions on? The 303 line, that's basically the normal purchases of supplies that they need to conduct their day-to-day operations. Anything from paint to wood to anything that they honestly need. Home Depot, Mangoins, whatever they need to do for their operations.
So the 204 line, Chuck, that was the cameras, right?
The 204 line is the cameras, right? Yes, I believe that is.
DPW.
Yes. The 204 line is the facility upgrades, which will be cameras for the new buildings, for the new building down at DPW.
Great.
The 409, the consultant services is Siemens contract. And there's a slight increase in the equipment repairs, which is basically repair to any city-owned facility.
Is the out-of-grade pay here that happened this year and you're continuing on? Obviously, it's not much, but just wondering what the...
So that's when Sean Kiley takes vacation, if he's gone for longer than a week, and he's not gone for longer than a week right now. I don't think, it's actually over 5 days. The next person down would have to, take over, and they would get out-of-grade pay for fulfilling his role for a while they're gone.
Yeah, okay, so that's not demonstrative of a broader issue, that's just vacation. That makes sense. Okay, any other questions from council members on this line?
No.
Great. What's the status of the salt shed?
Say that one more time?
What's the status of the salt shed?
It'll be, I think Aaron we gave an update at Siemens. The new one will be done in the spring of '22.
Okay.
And then the one in South Troy, we'll be able to replicate that for next year's budget.
Okay. DPW admin. Anything else on facilities before we move on to DPW admin? Okay. Chuck, this is you and the senior account clerk.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Let's see. You're keeping the office equipment line in. Did it not get upgraded this year, or there's just more to do?
More to do.
Okay.
The only other subsequent or significant increase was, I guess not significant, the only other increase was the uniform, which is an increase for shirts for employees, for CSA employees per the contract.
So that goes under your admin budget, but it's not all your shirts?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from council members on the admin line? Great. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
I think that's all the lines. Anything I'm missing? Obviously, we will wait until the next hearing to talk about the sanitation department. All right. Thank you, Andy, Monica, and Mayor Madden as well. And thank you to my colleagues.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Take
everybody.
a motion to end the meeting.
Make a motion.
Motion from Councilman Gully, second from Councilman Sue Steele. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
We'll see
Thanks
everybody
again.
in a week.
Good evening.
Thank you, everybody next week.